In a world of remakes and remasters,
Are we playing your
what was once sacred and cool has now soured and become lame.
Red?
Gone are the days of pods and cowabunga. Now is the reign of slurp juice and dabs. Kids these days don't even know how bad they've got it. Now it's up to the best generation to rise to the occasion and make a show that dares to go where a lot of other nerdy shows have already gone quite a bit. That's right. They're going to talk about it a lot. Hello and welcome to the show, everybody. This is Best Gen, where nerds complain about nerdy things. The show's called Best Gen not because we think that we are the best, but because we think that the entertainment from our gen was vastly superior to the tripe that is being spewed out today. And I'm not just waxing nostalgic. I'm finding less and less to enjoy from Hollywood these days. But there is a rare glimmer of positivity, like Top Gun Maverick and Bullet Train. How's everybody doing?
Money, Top Gun Maverick, by the
Still in theaters.
And
I don't know why.
Didn't it take top spot last week?
I don't know.
Above the re-release of Spider-Man: No Way Home?
Probably.
That happened. Huh?
No, I'm still talking to people who are like, "Oh yeah, I just barely went and saw it." I'm like, I don't know why you waited this long, but like, the people are watching this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are waiting because they haven't seen the original, or it's been so long since they've seen the original, so they want to watch that first.
Mm-hmm. The best thing is you don't have to. I mean, you really obviously don't. Anybody who's watching this already knows all that.
Yeah, but
like, gosh, you don't even have to. It's just that good.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about today. It's just us for now, but we will be joined later by Corwin, who's on his way home from work. There is a lot to discuss. We've got She-Hulk episode 4, right? Has there been 4 of this?
Yeah, I believe so.
And just to be clear, like I don't want to force you guys to keep watching She-Hulk. I'm watching it because it's my mission now. But like, if you guys are done, like, we don't have to talk about it on the show. I'll make videos.
Personally, I'm not actually minding She-Hulk, so I'm going to be watching it anyway. I'm also the kind of person who I want to see all of it so that I can get the full picture, because I'm just in for the ride with Marvel, even whether it's as good as it could or should be or not, you know.
Well,
yeah.
So I'll be watching it.
We got She-Hulk episode 4 to discuss. We've got the Rings of Power episode 3 to discuss, and the notes are long with this one. We got some bad takes. We got some very bad takes, and maybe even an incredibly nuanced today. So,
all right, that's been a while since we've had that segment.
We're joined by the usuals. We got Jared, and we got David, and we got me, because I'm the most important.
I mean, how long are we going to have other Jared on the show and have him still be other Jared at this point?
Well, real Jared's coming back eventually.
Is he?
Yeah. He, no, he just had a night. He had a night class.
Of course he is.
He scheduled an evening class during our show. Yes. I was spotted. I am doing the do because I have a massive headache. I pumped some ibuprofen as well.
So if you're a little loopier than usual,
Having 3 kids is fun. But the show must go on.
As David laughs at you with his 4.
Yeah.
4 kids. Yeah.
And I laugh at you with my 0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
right, what are we starting with?
Yeah, what are we starting with?
Let's get going.
You know what?
Those drugs are kicking in.
Yeah. I want to start off by not talking about any of those things because I want to talk about, before we get into the bad, I want to talk about the good again. We've talked about how great Top Gun Maverick was. We talked about how great Bullet Train was, but there was another gem of a movie that I saw this week that I was shocked at how good it was and how much I enjoyed myself. It was 13 Lives.
Okay, I haven't. It's not on my radar.
It's Ron Howard. It's little Opie from
Andy Griffith Show.
From the Andy Griffith Show. He's not in the movie. He's the director. He's done lots of movies like the Da Vinci Code and stuff like that, and Arrested Development. So he's directing. It's the real life story of the 13 kids who got trapped inside of a cave in not Korea, Thailand. Wow. It is a true story, and the way I was crying the entire time. I loved the movie. It was super well done, and the reason it was really good filmmaking because it didn't sensationalize anything. It didn't like capitalize on the trauma, and it didn't play things up for the drama. It felt like a documentary, just being dramatized, like acting out the parts. They kept showing you like the map of the cave and like how long each trip took, because it started flooding and they got trapped inside. 13 kids got trapped inside, and like everyone just pitched in to try and save them. They were trapped for a long time. If you don't like, it's weird to have like spoilers for like a real life event. Yeah. But even knowing how it does end, because I followed the real story, it does not affect the enjoyment of the film, because that's not the point of the film. It's the point of the film is just showing the good in people and how much people were willing to sacrifice to save these kids.
Nice. I do kind of remember hearing about this when it was going on.
It was incredible, and the acting is spot on. You got Viggo Mortensen, and you've got
Colin
Farrell. So you got 2 sexy leads getting
Joel Edgerton's in there,
suited up in jumpsuits and saving a bunch of kids who were stuck in these caves for a very long time.
That's awesome. I don't know why I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, super Joel good. Edgerton and Tom Bateman are the other ones that are listed as starring.
Yeah.
Those two. Yeah.
Aside from them, it's all like Taiwanese actors. Like most of the majority of the film is not in English. Super good.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Cool.
So there are still a couple good things being made. So go watch those.
I'll check that one out.
Yeah. So now let's get into it. She-Hulk or Rings of Power? What are we doing first?
It's your show.
Let's get She-Hulk over with.
Okay.
I hated it.
What?
So
surprise.
That's my hot take.
I will say I really hated Madison. She was just awful.
No, she was the best part.
Are you referring to the alcoholic prostitute?
Yeah,
that was the main character of this
it
episode.
was
Yes,
too much. And I'm sorry. I like Wong, and I'm fine with him being goofy and over the top. I was not cool with
She
him
was my
becoming
favorite
actual
part. It
besties.
was hilarious.
family show, guys. We got twerking last episode, and now we get an alcoholic prostitute in this one.
Mhm.
No.
I will say it's still not a great show, but this was the best episode so far.
It was mildly amusing. It was just a little much for me.
Yeah,
for whatever.
I love that joke with it's Madison with a Y, but not where you think.
Except
like,
that
what-
they did it
And then you
4
had the-
times.
I
They did
know,
the same
but-
joke 4 times, and then she spells her name, and you're like, yeah, that's where I would have put the Y.
I don't know. I think there are 2 places you would put
It's
the Y.
it's the sort of thing
But
where I don't know if
then
anybody
they
here
do-
watches. If any of y'all watched Studio C, but they had just before the original cast left, and they actually kind of carried it over to their JK Studios, that like living life podcast thing. And like, I get it. It's kind of funny. It is mildly amusing, but it grates on me too much that like, oh my gosh, it's too much for me. So it was absolutely its intention. And so it did what it was supposed to be, but gosh.
This
it was the first part in the show that actually made me laugh. So I don't know. I liked it. It was hilarious, and I enjoyed seeing Wong actually be the Sorcerer Supreme, and kicking butt on some demon baby things or whatever they were.
They were demon babies, and but he wasn't showing that he was a good Sorcerer Supreme because his plan was stupid.
He just
they
where did he
were
send
literally
him to? Just
bumbling around, and he sent him to like a different dimension, and then like sucked him up in like a fourth. It was just like it was so painful. And the whole like dueling. The whole dueling magicians thing was so trite. This episode literally got so cringe, I couldn't look at the screen. I was like this the whole time. I was like, why is Disney making me watch this show? And it went even harder this week with their Daredevil advertising. Daredevil was all over the place on YouTube in their promos, and I'm like, this is not producing the desired effect that you want, Disney.
I was actually really surprised that he didn't show up this time, because I know that for a bunch of like press people or whatever, they got the first 4 episodes ahead of time. And so I was expecting at the very end of this episode, or maybe the post-credit, that they would have shown this. The post-credit, I'm sorry, the Madison during the episode was fine. Madison at the end of the post-credit, that was not a fun tag. I'm sorry.
If they make She-Hulk and Daredevil romantic interests, I will end my life.
I doubt it. I mean, they might, but I doubt it.
They have you seen the promos, dude?
I haven't been watching. No.
She's thirsty for him in them.
Lovely. Gotta love that. Male objectification is A-okay in Disney's book.
It's that double standard.
Yeah.
It was so hard to. This episode was the hardest one to watch for me. The other ones were like dumb, but and it showed she's completely incompetent as a lawyer. These writers, they have no idea how anything in law works, they bring in a surprise witness. That's not how anything works. You have that would have had to have been included in Discovery. That's not a decision that you can make in the spur of the moment. And if that is a decision that you're going to make, you include it in Discovery, and you prep your witness.
Yeah.
Yes.
You never ask a question you don't know the answer to. And the defense will have all of the questions that you're going to ask. Like, it's scripted. And this
the one
this
thing that I will
show
say to that,
pisses me off.
The one thing that I will say to that is a pretty common lawyer show trope, the surprise witness thing. By this point, we've learned that that's not a thing, because we also have the internet, that we have people telling us that's not a thing. So we should know to do better. Even if they don't know, it should be really easy to figure that out.
But it's making the protagonist look like a bumbling fool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not helping her for sure. I don't think it's going. For me, it's not hitting that quite that hard, but it's not helping her for sure. She can handle it when something dumb like that happens, or when she makes a mistake like that. But it's not helping her case. No, she's not coming across as nearly as competent as I think they want to make her.
And it was the same thing in the last episode with the abomination when she's giving her arguments. She's just oh no, but I'm a lawyer, guys, and like I thought you wanted to portray a strong, confident female lead.
Yeah, I agree, and even the court scene in the opening episode, the opposing lawyer is just like, that's nonsensical.
It felt like the speech that the king gives in Shrek. Some of you may die, but that is a price I'm willing to pay. Like, it was cartoonish.
Yeah. Depends on what your definition of is. That was.
Yeah.
It depends on how you define murdered in cold blood.
For me, like, I can embrace the fact that this is supposed to be a goofy show, and so like it's not doing enough to really be humorous.
Have you laughed at any of the jokes though?
I've giggled a couple of times.
This is a comedy. This is billed as a comedy.
So it doesn't bug me that they're being goofy with it. It does make me like, it's not goofy. It's not that I want it to be goofier, but it's not. You're right. It's not really making me laugh.
Yeah.
But it's. I'm not really expecting it to be well done. I don't know.
I think the only joke that I thought was good was that she spoiled The Sopranos for him, for Wong
twice. Yeah.
And I laughed because I was like, Wong's been acting so stupid. He deserves this.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, this is the first episode that I actually audibly laughed. So,
I'm embarrassed for you, David. I was literally cringing the whole time. The whole time I was just like, I cannot look at the screen. This is so hard to watch.
For me, it legitimately is one of those things where it's like, I know some people find this funny. I just cannot actually enjoy a character like her. It's it's not enough for me to say like, that was a bad decision or it shouldn't have done it. It works for some people, but gosh, it was not.
Oh yeah, the court case was and it was like, it was so dumb too. The case that they were arguing was like, anything like this never would have made it to court.
Yeah.
Well, this would have been decided in the judge's chambers. The judge would have made a ruling. They would have come to
exactly.
This would have been settled outside of court.
Need a jury with. Yeah.
Well, and so to that point, actually, this was supposed to be a preliminary hearing just with the judge, and it wasn't. I don't know specifically whether they actually do those in court or not, but to a degree of, there wasn't a jury. It was just for the judge to do that, and they did present that this was a preliminary hearing. But I am surprised that they focused on the idea of, you can't copyright art, whereas she said you literally can. Whereas what the real argument should have been is, you are doing stuff that is literally dangerous. We should stop him from doing the dangerous stuff. You can do your magic tricks that are human magic, but
exactly. Their argument was, but I use a loaded gun on stage. I kill people on stage. It's part of my act.
Yeah.
That would never fly in any court, in any country.
Yeah, exactly.
And somehow the judge fell for that weird. She was mad at him for throwing the smoke bomb the second time, but then she also fell for the hare or the rabbit showing up behind the thing, and like,
see, that's the part that didn't quite make sense, because they portray him as like this washed up magician and that makes sense in a world where you have actual people that fly and sling rings and real magic. A magician show is not going to carry the same weight. But, he's doing his show. Nobody's laughing. Nobody's applauding or anything.
It's not a good show.
Suddenly, when he gets to the courtroom and he's doing this magic, everyone that's in the courtroom is like, oh, yeah, you're amazing. It's like,
it was good magic.
The thing that I kind of actually did giggle at was, even the lawyer's a magician, and that was kind of a goofy little bit, because again, none of them were good, and I think that's the point of them, is they were supposed to be terrible, and it kind of made me laugh that
it was just so cringy. Like it was so hard for me to look at the screen. I hated every second of it.
Mhm.
But I hated Rings of Power more. So yeah.
I was mostly just confused during most of it, and I
Same.
wonder if a lot of it is it's almost like they're expecting the big fans that they're constantly pissing off to be the ones that are watching and get all of these little intricacies and references to different things, and it's like
There
it's
there
not.
are zero references to Tolkien in the
Well, I
first
mean,
three
you do
episodes.
have Elendil and Isildur, which they're
Numenor.
way out of Numenor,
Yes.
which they're
Yeah.
way out of time or whatever.
And a
but
fake
then just
brother
the way
and,
that
and,
they-
and a fake additional brother and sister. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then just some of the things that she's talking about, like making the connections that Halbrand is such and such this or that or the other, and I'm like,
I'm
oh, is
so
that
glad.
something
I'm
we
so
would've
glad
known?
that we took
What?
the time to learn about how Isildur's fake sister got accepted to college. Though that was
Yeah.
riveting entertainment.
See that whole conversation with the sister and the brother and Isildur and his father, or whatever, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. And they wrote it like we're supposed to be invested in these characters, and he's like telling Isildur, "No, you've got to go on this voyage or mission or
You have to
whatever he's
take the
doing."
trials or whatever.
But
yeah.
they
And
didn't.
they
They
set
didn't
me up-
explain the stakes of any of it.
Exactly. That's
They
what
said,
yeah.
"Oh, it's
they
just
wanted
this
this
thing that you have to
conversation to
do."
have a bunch of weight, and we don't have any context for it. I'm like, I don't
They-
feel.
I just
any-
felt
They
confused.
didn't explain why the first choice should have any weight, and they didn't
Exactly.
explain why why he wanted to choose an alternative at all, other than
Yeah, that kinda
his
came out
brother
of-
wanted him to do it.
Yeah, that
Exactly.
came totally out of left field. The fact that he brought, oh, but you deferred for 2 seasons or whatever. He was just like, oh, it was different, and it didn't even feel like I'm keeping a secret or I'm trying to do something and oh, it's different. It just felt like they weren't addressing. They tried to bring up a point and then they decided not to address it.
And
at
that
all.
wasn't the only time that this happened to this episode.
Yeah.
It happened about 6 times.
The other thing that really confused me is everybody's really mad at the elves, and I'm still not quite sure
Doesn't
what's
tell you
going on
why.
with that.
Doesn't tell you why.
But then they're doing a play where Galadriel apparently saved the queen from somebody.
Yeah, it doesn't make
What?
it doesn't make she's been there for a day, and they've already carved a wooden Galadriel marionette.
Yeah,
I thought that was a historical thing, like based on the last time she was there.
That's what I
the
took
lines
too.
from that play are her talking to Tarmiriel that morning
Really?
in court. Yes, it's her introducing herself to Tarmiriel.
So
I thought she's like, oh, I won't let them kill you, queen, and she defends the queen in that like play.
Yeah, see, I took it to mean that was something that happened in the past, and they knew of her. They just didn't know that she was.
No,
because then the sister comes in and is like, "Oh, the Galadriel is here! Whoa!"
Yeah,
and nobody else reacted.
That's the part that. See, there was a disconnect though, because she introduces herself to the court as, "Hey, I'm Galadriel, daughter of yada yada yada." And she gives her whole thing, and then later when she's talking to Isildur's father, whatever his name is,
I think it's Elendil, isn't it?
Elendil, yeah.
Elendil, yeah.
She's like, "You have no idea who I am," and they're like, "Well,
but you just said who you
does.
were.
You just told
and
me
apparently
exactly who you are."
All of Numenor has heard the myths and legends of you too, even though no one knows who she is. It
Right.
doesn't.
So
It's
it just
completely
didn't-
contradictory.
it didn't make
Nothing
sense.
makes sense.
No effect on.
But before we get too much into Rings of Power, we're at Corwin's back from work and he's joining
Hello.
us tonight. And you texted me, Corwin, and you said, "I am done with She-Hulk. I can't do this anymore."
No.
Right? We're already done talking about it because it was so bad. But what did you have to say about She-Hulk?
So I equated it to the bag of dog poop prank that you light on fire and put on somebody's porch. Like, you put for those of you who don't know, because it's a little old school, okay, you pick up dog poop or human poop or just poop, right? And you put it in a brown paper bag and you light the bag on fire and you put it on somebody's porch. Don't do this. Bad things happen. Just don't do it. But, it's shown in movies and stuff. You light the bag on fire and you doorbell ditch. The person comes out and goes, "Oh no, something's on fire!" And then they step on it, and then they put the fire out, and they realize
poop on their shoes.
Their shoe is covered in
poop.
And
it smells worse because it was just on. Because
and it smells worse because it was on fire. That's what She-Hulk is.
Like
She-Hulk is.
It's supposed to be a comedy, but the only actual joke is that it got made in the first place.
It's
it's like that movie Freddy Got Fingered.
I'm done with it. I can't even, man.
I will say it actually did.
What is that other? I is a PG show. What is that other wonderful woman, daughter of God's name? Megan Three Stallion.
It is Megan V Stallion.
Megan V Stallion,
which is an unfortunate
grammatical error. Yeah.
It perpetuates an unfortunate stereotype that people of her color don't know how grammar works.
Yeah.
So
I will say, actually,
the first episode when she's like, I get catcalled and I'm this, and their whole like women power, and it's just so. And the same thing goes. The same general thing goes from She-Hulk to Lord of the Rings, and I can get into that in a second. But like the whole like, I get catcalled and I'm all this, I'm all that, and then the next scene they have is her and this stripper rapper whore. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna come out and say it.
Yes.
Her music is garbage, and it is vulgar and vile and women power. Yeah, you behaving like an absolute slut is not women power.
It's not.
And then her and She-Hulk twerking in the office. Go to hell. I'm done.
Well, she was also complaining about like workplace harassment and stuff
Yes.
like that. And then she's twerking in her workplace, and previously in the episode, she spends her entire time at work setting up her dating profile.
Yeah.
And she complains about workplace professionalism.
Workplace professionalism, dating profile, and then Megan Stallion is slapping her butt as they're sitting there twerking. I mean, it's just garbage. It's just.
I will say, though, there is one thing. It actually confirmed a point that you guys made a few weeks ago on your small talk about her being hired and people thinking that she was just the affirmative action hire because of her She-Hulkness, and saying how invalidating that would be because she actually had earned it, but she was only hired for affirmative action or superhero,
that is a plot point. She was only hired because she's She-Hulk.
It validated your point slightly.
And she's extremely unqualified for the position.
Yeah. Theoretically, they frame it like she's supposed to actually be qualified for that position, and
they're not showing
upset
it.
that she won't look it. But yeah, she's not quite showing that as well.
And not only that, I'm just done with it. Like the writing's bad, the CGI is bad. They completely demasculated the Hulk in every which way of the term.
Yeah.
I'm done with it. Like I'm just done with it. I don't need to watch this trash. I have a million other shows that I would rather spend my time on. I'm done with it. I will not touch it. The MCU is dead. It can die, burn. I'm okay with it. Let's move on. But it brings to a point, because I know you guys have talked about Lord of the Rings, so we can get back to Lord of the Rings. It brings to a point my issues, because I haven't seen episode 3 yet. I've only seen episode 1 and 2, and as you guys know, I don't care about spoilers, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
My issues with it so far,
with Rings of Power.
With Rings of Power,
okay.
Rings of Power, and
transferring
transferring from She-Hulk to Rings of Power is with Galadriel. My whole issue with the show is
she's
with Galadriel.
Insufferable.
She is. Her character is so. For example, let's go to the ice caves in the very beginning of episode 1. You get to those ice caves, and they have an ice troll that comes out, and this ice troll is just killing elves left and right. And she shows up.
Except they walk in with 7 people in their company, and after the ice troll kills about 6 of them, the next scene there are 9.
Really?
So
yes.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah. So you've got stupid stuff like that. And I mean, I can nitpick too, but I'm just going off main. Like, she shows up and she pulls out her sword and she does this little flashy Jedi lightsaber twirl stuff. And she kills this troll without any difficulty at all.
Yeah.
No difficulty.
And completely by herself.
Elite elven troopers. Like, they are the elite. They've been out the longest. They're doing the hunting. They are the strongest. And this troll is ripping them to shreds. And then she shows up. And I'm not saying they couldn't have her be powerful. I get it. You want Galadriel to be powerful.
But she completely ignores her entire team.
She was too powerful. She was too powerful. She shows up and she kills it like it's nothing. Like it's absolutely nothing. Yeah, and then at the end, like after she stabs it and she does like, and then she walks up and the trolls and she's just like, look at me. I'm awesome.
She turns her back.
Woman power.
She turns
And
her
it
back
comes
to the
off-
troll about 7 times in the fight scene, so she can do cool spins because she's clearly
Yes.
not scared of it, even though it's already killed like 6 people.
It's overkill. That's what it was. They could have showed her killing the troll. They could have made that scene. They could have even made her be the hero of that scene, which you should. But for example, let's take the fight.
Go back and watch the troll scene in the Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah, just let's go
It
back.
is so different.
It took the whole Fellowship to kill the troll.
Working together.
Let's go back to another scene that is a hero versus a bad guy, and in Fellowship, and that's Aragorn versus the big bad.
Sauron.
Yeah. It's
The orc.
The orc. It's not the orc.
He doesn't have a name.
The Uruk-hai. The big bad Uruk-hai that kills Boromir, right?
Yeah. When he
Aragorn
in real time bats a dagger out of the air that was thrown too low.
Yeah, in
With
real
his
time
sword.
he did that. By the way, that was not supposed to be part of it, but he did it.
He was supposed to duck under it, and he was too low, and he's.
But Viggo Mortensen was able to anyway. But that fight,
freaking cool.
He is, and they say this multiple times that Aragorn is the best fighter of the Fellowship. Can even beat Legolas in a fight. It's said in the books. It's there. So we know he's the best fighter in the Fellowship. He beat off wraiths and he beat off all these other. He gets in a fight with that Uruk-hai and he barely makes it out alive. But he still comes out the hero because there was this great struggle and he wins and the Fellowship has respect. Notice the difference between that feeling and that scene compared to Galadriel just showing up. I killed this. I killed it.
Right.
No worries.
It's not a challenge. There's no threat if you just instantly KO the.
So what
the thing
can
by
she?
yourself,
What,
right?
So that way, and that's my thing. Like when you have another big fight come up between her and whoever else they're going to throw at her, she's already beat a troll. It doesn't make sense that she would struggle so much with something else. Yeah. So, but then that goes to the second episode when she's off doing her little swimming in the ocean, right?
Just a little swim.
just a little swim, right? She's just out there bloop, 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 like the freaking Little Mermaid, and then this
thousands
big sea monster
of miles
comes,
from
this
any
big sea
civilization
monster comes, and does she struggle? Nope, no struggle.
Yep, she just swims away.
Yep, no struggle. They latch onto it and it swims them, and next thing you know, was there struggle? Well, people go, well, there was no struggle. It's a gigantic shark. It's a huge sea monster. There was no struggle. And so that's my big problem with it. That's my problem with it is they want me to like her and I can't because they're making her a goddess and it doesn't work.
And her attitude is horrible.
Yes.
Although
I
do like in this episode that she comes and is doing these negotiations, right? And she's just ticking everyone off. And then what's his name? Halbrand comes up and he's like, "Shut your mouth." And he does his, smooth negotiation. So I did like that.
And then she ignores him and ruins it again.
Exactly. She refuses to listen. And I don't know if that is going to be like a plot point that, she's got to learn through this show to listen to other people, or if they're just doing it to. I don't know what they're going for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When she
remember, we talked about this last week. We need to treat it like Robin Hood Men in Tights. That's what this is.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. But also the point where she just leaves her troops to die in the snow. Oops, that's not the right comment. We have to slow down. We've lost. One of us has fallen behind. Nope, we're not stopping. Which apparently is the same attitude that the Harfoots have.
Yeah, that's the other thing that on Lord of the Rings, I'm not a big fan. I'm not a fan of the Harfoots. I'm not a fan of the
because they should not exist.
No, I'm not a fan of it. It
looks so dumb.
Yeah, it feels dumb. It feels dumb. Like it gets
worse. Episode 3 you haven't seen yet. They are the worst they have ever been. It's not just their character design. It's not just their costumes that look ridiculous. They go into their culture in episode 3, and it is cult-like. It is a genuinely evil culture, and they come up with all these like rituals and stuff that are just insane and stupid because they're trying to give them like depth, and it just makes them look retarded.
Yeah, I did like the memorial service that they did.
The memorial service where they list off all of the people that they've left to die. You mean that one?
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
it was heartfelt, but you're right.
Look, they have their. So you've seen them preparing for their harvest festival, Corwin. In episode 3, they have their harvest festival thing, and they run around shouting repeatedly. They do it like 20 times in the episode.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Nobody goes off trail. Nobody goes off trail, and no one is left behind. And nobody walks alone. Nobody goes off trail. Nobody goes off trail, and nobody walks alone. And then they conclude their ritual by having a memoriam service where he reads from a book all of the people that they have left behind. He said, "Oh, this one got stubbed his toe and he couldn't keep up. So we waited for him in our hearts." That is a direct quote. We wait for them in our hearts.
See, that's why
while we leave them to die. You're talking about a nomadic culture.
Part of the show so far.
This is a nomadic culture. They would not exist if that is how they acted. When you have a culture that moves around like this, you never leave someone behind.
You got to stick together, yeah.
I'd actually been mostly on board with them up until this episode, and while I agree with you, like your point about that, I can understand that's how they are, and then we're seeing Nori buck that trend or whatever, and she's going to teach them a lesson about that. So I can get behind the fact that they're doing that story, but there was something about it that I wasn't able to get behind this time. It was a little bit more over the top in a way that I can't explain what it was, but yeah.
I will say this.
Yes, and they even laugh. They laugh at one of the deaths.
Yes, they laugh at one of them.
Oh, that dumb idiot! He got dyed by bees, and everyone laughs.
Yeah.
I will say this on a positive note. It is very beautifully done.
The scenery
is gorgeous.
Amazing.
That's where the $1 billion went.
And Tolkien-esque, if I'm honest.
I know a lot of people.
The scenery looks like Tolkien.
And I know a lot of people are like, look at some of the mistakes they made when it came to like the armor and stuff like that.
Oh, you okay?
Episode 3 is.
You triggered my trap card, Corwin.
Is it bad? Is it bad?
Finish. Oh yeah.
Take a look at the chainmail real quick, Corwin. You want to tell me what that's made from?
They're not linked. I'll tell you that.
They are flat washers. Tied together with string.
But see, I'm not gonna bash that because that's actually actually very
but
common
this
in
is
medieval.
Numenor, the peak of all human civilization.
Okay. But even still, like you can argue that point, but even still, like that armor is actually medieval. They did that a lot. They would take cloth and instead of
and they would use chain link. They wouldn't use flat washers.
No, they would use rings.
This is cosplay level.
It was called ring mail. They would take the rings and they would tie it to and it would just be rings and it was not as time consuming.
Yes,
but they would overlap them.
My point though is that this is someone cosplaying as ring mail.
Right.
Yes.
Go back and watch the Lord of the Rings, and they actually made mail.
Yes, it took. I think this is like 2 years, didn't it, to like make all the armor and stuff?
I wouldn't doubt it. My brother actually made a I don't remember what the head covering one is, and a tunic of chainmail, and it took him freaking ever.
You can see the problem right here, where they are separating.
Yeah,
which means it's completely useless.
Yeah, if you want to do that proper, they've got to overlap each other. Have the bottom of the one on the bottom overlap the top on the top one.
They're supposed to be interlinked, not wrapped together with strings.
But if you are going to wrap them like that, you got to overlap them and wrap them. Don't just set them next to each other.
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't think that's.
But I do agree. You can definitely see where the money's went. The sets are absolutely breathtaking, and some of the CGI is really good. About 50% of it is janky as heck.
Yeah,
and you haven't seen episode 3 yet, Corwin.
Yeah,
you
the
haven't
Caragor
you
piece was
haven't
pretty-
seen the warg.
I've
The Warg,
heard
yeah.
episode 3 is
Yeah.
rough. I've heard it. I've seen a lot of people say it's very bad.
The warg was weird. Like you again, you don't care about the it looked like a pug or a like the pug version or the rat dog, the Chihuahua dog version of a warg that we've seen before.
Yeah.
And then none of them can take on the warg, even though we've seen Legolas just shoot him down like crazy.
Even though
Until-
Well, I don't have a
the
bow and
orcs
arrow, but
leave
yeah.
him chained up. They don't unchain the warg when they stick him on the. I'm seeing if I can find a picture.
So the
It was-
movies, they had 40 seamstresses working for 2 years prior to filming, making a massive 19,000 costumes for hobbits, elves, dwarves, and humans. That's not including. I haven't seen the armor yet, but I know they really did the armor.
One of the shots, like he's completely bug-eyed and like cross-eyed, and his eyes
That's-
are pointing different.
That's his
directions.
constant. Like
Yeah,
it's like I swear he is the
so bad.
pug Chihuahua version of a warg that we've seen before. Like
None of this is from the show.
what?
Oh, remember
3 years.
Remember when it looked awesome in the two
Yeah.
towers? Right? And it looked like a real animal. And this looks like CGI.
Well, I didn't
Yeah.
even mind the CGI of it. It was just the weirdest design and the word. And again, you have wargs that you had from the original trilogy, like or the original movies, and like I don't know, maybe maybe Liz can tell us if there's something that happened with the wargs between this time and the time of the Lord of the Rings. But holy cow, it was not good looking.
So my point is, yes,
Unholy
a lot of
cow.
the like the scenery and the backdrops, like the CGI in that aspect looks really good. But the problem is the costumes look like they're made out of plastic and paper mache, and you have these people in these crappy costumes walking through this beautiful scenery, and it completely takes me out of the scenery. And we talked about this last week, and you missed it, Corwin. The difference between a good costume and a bad costume is when comparing the Rings of Power to the Lord of the Rings. When you look at the Rings of Power, you see a costume, and when you look at Lord of the Rings, you see clothing.
Yeah, and
Like
that's
you
what
can
I'm-
tell
that's what I was
these,
kinda
you can
looking.
tell these people are wearing costumes.
40 seamstresses, 3 years, and then it looks like they had 3 years, 80,000 rings woven by hand. Yeah, so they had real blacksmiths making armor and clothing, and it took them 3 years to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, you're spending enough money, you should be able to do that.
They spent $1 billion on this show.
Yeah.
And obviously it was over. And what people don't understand is it's like, I think they already have season 2 completely filmed, and they're just working on touching it up. And I think they're already starting in season 3.
I don't know if they've filmed season 2. I don't know if that's accurate, but yeah,
They've spent
already
$1
been
billion.
approved.
My understanding is they've spent $1 billion on the entire series.
The problem is, though, they built all of these sets in New Zealand and then had to abandon every single one of them because of COVID restrictions, and they had to rebuild everything in England.
That
Ouch.
sucks.
So there's that.
But you know what they should do is they should take a page out of Star Wars' book and somehow blame the quality. Well, I mean, they actually should, but blame the actual show for costing that much because of something that was completely unrelated to the movie. I don't know. I'm still salty about the fact that they blame Solo's failure on anything other than the fact that they shot it twice
Yes.
and marketed it terribly and released it right after
Yeah.
Endgame. Anyway, sorry, that was a
There was 2 different movies. I would be curious to see the original cut. So,
I'd be curious to see it. The version that came out was fine. Anyway, I'm taking this off topic.
Yeah.
I'm really good at that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know. And we talked about last week. I think my biggest problem so far, especially as you're talking about Galadriel, I was going to mention this, Corwin. We talked about this last week in terms of she's not going to learn a lot, like because she's making
she's not going to learn the lesson because she's correct.
Yeah.
Yes,
she's making bad decisions based on something that we end up knowing is true. So she's right. But she's doing it all wrong. And so,
and she's not going to have to repent.
like realize that this thing, the way she was going about it, was wrong, unless the thing that she was doing it for was wrong, which that's not the case. So she's never going to learn that what she was doing was wrong.
So she's not going to have character growth.
All these terrible things that she was doing, like with the abandoning her people and just pushing them too much and being a little too fanatical, she's not going to learn from that at all. Or I don't know how she will.
Okay.
I don't know.
My other problem with the show, and it became very apparent in episode 3, is that it tells you the same information about 6 times because it doesn't trust the audience. They have to repeat everything over and over again. They never use show don't tell. They always tell rather than show, and then never show you anything important. It's so painful. And you mentioned this, David, when they're on the boat and they're like, they play the pronoun game where they try and obfuscate the answer to the question so that it remains mysterious. She's like, where are we going? We are going to a place that will be at the end of our voyage. And where would that place be at the end of the voyage? Oh, it is a place where the ship will stop sailing. And what is that location? That's not answering my question. It is our home. What? Where is that? Like, they do it like 6 times.
I mean, they also did.
And it's
the character tried to tell her, "I'm not going to tell you," and then she kept asking, and he just gives her these roundabout answers and being like, instead of being like, I just told you I'm not telling you where we're going.
And they also don't explain anyone's motivations. They have this mysterious reason why they can't allow elves in Numenor, and they never tell you what it is. And so you don't care the entire episode. And you don't. It's not till the end of the episode that they still don't tell you why. They tease the reason why that maybe we'll find out next episode. I don't know, but I don't know what anyone wants. The boat situation didn't. Oh yeah. Well, when it introduces Isildur, training on the boat, they try and make it super. They try and make this super dramatic scene where one of the guys is hanging from a rope, but they're just on like open water with like no waves. And I'm like, this isn't dangerous. Where is the tension? Like, you could have had them in a storm or something, and the inexperienced guy does something stupid, and Isildur saves him.
Right.
That would have been so much better.
Even if he went overboard, it's like, or
he grabs a rope and jumps in and saves it because he's like, oh, I'm experienced. And then it would make his decision to not want to pursue this like more impactful because it's like, oh, but he's clearly so good at it. But so why does it like?
I guess they don't want him to actually be good at it or particularly ready for it.
But they showed him that he's the only one that was smart. He was telling, no, don't do that thing, because he knew it was going to happen. But he's clearly in his daydreams. He's clearly got some other aspirations with his brother, but it doesn't tell you what those are either. It doesn't tell you. And we spend the whole time learning about how his sister gets to go to college. Yay, she's going to join a fraternity. Who gives a crap? These people don't know how to write stories. There is literally no conflict, and the only semi-conflicts that they've introduced don't have any tension or weight because they don't tell you why they're important.
Exactly. That scene where he gets off the ship, they should have had a conversation with him and his sister talking about how I don't want to do this because. And then when you have the conversation,
they spend the whole time saying, "Hey, your sister's hot. I hope she comes to the pub with us." The entire point of that scene is to say, "Where's Dad?" But the audience already knew where Elendil was. We knew that he was going to have an audience with the Queen, and then he has an audience with the Queen. Okay, but before the sea is always right. They kept chanting that. What a dumb slogan.
Yeah.
Be-
Our ship is capsized. I guess
The sea is always
sea's
right.
will.
The sea, like they keep trying to come up with these catchphrases, and I know exactly what they're doing. They're trying to come up with like the slogans from Game of Thrones, like the house slogans. How you had House Targaryen, a Targaryen always pays his debts, and you had you had every single house like had their slogan, and you can tell that's what they're trying to do here, except that it's just idiotic slogans.
Yeah.
Their slogans
I haven't
are
even seen the show.
stupid. You have the
Nobody
Harfoots.
walks
You have the
alone.
Harfoots. Nobody goes off trail, and nobody walks alone except for the ones we leave behind and leave to the deaths. The sea is always right. The sea is always right. A Lannister's always right about the sea being right. Like it's retarded.
This is the way. That's the other example of something that they want to be able to.
Yeah,
But that one's good though.
Yeah, no, that's my point. Is they're trying to be like this is the way.
Oh,
Yes.
right.
They're not.
yes.
They're trying to come up with their this is the way, and they're not doing it. Yeah.
Right.
Also,
Yeah,
when they introduce
absolutely.
Isildur's sister, I still don't know what her name is because they introduced her character like a bad improv scene. They say, "Hello, my sister. As we both know, you are my sister, and our father is Elendil." And they don't tell you her name. They could have
They do
say it
introduced,
two
they
or
could have
three
introduced her
times.
character saying, they say, "Hey, your sister's here," but instead they could have said, "Hey, her name is here," and then you have to gather from their conversation what their relationship is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again,
That's how
to your
people
point to
talk in
them-
real life.
To your point to them not trusting the audience and not knowing the one that really stood out to me with that was, and it ended up playing into the follow-up scene that they had with it was when Halbrand steals the little signet or whatever. They have him steal it and he walks off
And you
or
see
whatever.
it
And
happen,
then you
and
see
you're
him,
like, if you're paying attention, it was actually really subtle and done well until he leaves the
And then he's
alleyway.
like-
and then
going,
it's just like ding, ding, and you're like, we saw you do that. Like
"Utterly
even if-
tall!
even if you didn't, even if
Yeah.
somehow you didn't see it, because you're right, it was actually subtle and pretty well done when he stole it. You saw him eye it and you knew that he was supposed to be. He wanted that. And he was going
If
to
they
use it.
really thought their
and then he
audience was
takes
stupid,
off.
they could have had a scene where he goes down the alleyway and like slowly like,
Yeah,
and it just shows a quick, but he's flaunting it.
yeah. And I guess it plays into the fact that they also figure him out and come to beat him up or whatever. But
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, it could have worked equally, even better, where they just show up and it's like, "Hey, you stole from me," and like, "I don't know what you're talking about," and it's like,
Yeah,
he did
Okay.
steal it.
Here's another example of terrible dialogue. When they try and sound profound, it just comes out like word salad. Tarmiriel is talking to Elendil. By the way, I liked Elendil. I think that he, at least the actor's portrayal, is by far the best acting and the best character so far. It's just a shame. It's just a shame that his breastplate looks idiotic.
Yeah,
It looks like it's made of
other
cardboard.
Numenorians, though.
They
other
all wear
Numenorians
those.
look like
They all wear
plastic. It's
moob
awful.
armor and it's so stupid.
Yeah,
But I'm really enjoying his portrayal, and I like the actor. I think he does a good job as Elendil.
Yeah.
So it's not all hate, guys. Okay, but he's talking to Tarmiriel. Tarmiriel says it shows the white tree, and there's leaves, the petals falling from it, and she says, "The faithful believe that when the petals of the white tree fall, it is no idle thing, but the very tears of the Valar themselves, a living reminder that their eyes and their judgment are ever upon us, because they look at you and they cry." Like it's trying to be profound, and it makes no sense, and it's so dumb. And then their conversation is the perfect example of what we've talked about several times in these shows with writers who have no clue how to write. These characters are talking past each other. Neither of them are listening to what the other person has to say, and the dialogue is just there to like get the plot points out, because
Exactly,
it doesn't sound like the way people would talk ever. She's getting mad at him. She says, your name means elf lover. Do you love elves? And he's like, "No, I don't love elves. I was just out on the sea and I found them, and the sea is always right. And so I picked them up and I brought them here." And she's like, "But the sea can't commit treason," implying that he committed treason. And then his response is, I only did what I judged prudent. I saw people, and I thought we shouldn't let them die. So he's like, look, I judged in the situation, and I did what I thought was smart. And then her response is, if that is your wish, then we will have to ask you to perform a service. What did he wish?
Yeah.
Like it's so choppy. It doesn't make sense the way that they talk. He wasn't wishing anything. He was justifying. He was like, hey, look, I saw a guy that was hurt and I picked him up. And I'm sorry that breaks our rules. Well, if that's your wish, what? He didn't express a desire. He expressed a justification. What is she talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Disappointing.
I guess I'll see here in a day or two when me and my wife watch it.
It's so painful. I had to pause it so many times because I was like, that dialogue doesn't make sense. I had to go back and rewind it. I was like, I don't know. I literally do not know what these people are saying because it was written by a nincompoop.
Yeah. Another example when they're trying to be overly flowerful in their language, it just comes across as jarble. Is my wife turned to me when this was happening. He's like, that didn't make any sense. That was ridiculous. Is when she's talking to Halbrand in the jail or whatever, and she's like spouting something, and she says something about we don't face the things that men fear the most or something, and it was just it didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's bad.
At that point, I was just continuing to get more.
It sounded like
confused.
general, like elvish sayings, but it didn't.
Yeah,
I don't know. It didn't.
Here's another one though, because from there it goes to Black Olas, who's captured, and it turns out his entire regiment is also captured, even though they were leaving the area. And remember when he was first captured? He said, "Oh, these orcs have been digging underground, and that's how we haven't been able to see them." But then it cuts to a wide shot, and they've dug a tunnel not underground.
It's a trench.
miles wide and miles long, cutting down trees along their way.
Yeah.
And no one spotted it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's moronic.
It's weird.
I did want to throw them one little bone though. I am impressed that they took attention to detail that these orcs pre the Orokai in the original trilogy,
they can't touch sun.
They can't touch the sun. I was expecting them to gloss over that, and I got to give them props. They stuck to that, and I did. So there's a lot of issues with this scene.
But the line of dialogue I wanted to point out though.
Okay.
Is when he's talking to his buddies, they say, okay, one of us needs to escape. If one of us makes it home, then we'll be able to say, hey, the British are coming. The British are coming, right? And he says, we can return in full force and sweep the enemy from these lands like salt from a table. If that ain't the most profound simile ever that pen has ever put to page, then my name is not technically Mexican.
Technically.
Yeah.
And then they're talking, and the elf, the orc is like, if you try, you gonna escape, little boy? And no, I'm not gonna escape. And his response is, try it, elf, and I will make a map of your back as he's whipping his whip. And I'm like, what kind of intimidation? I will make a map of your back. I'll do some fancy.
I actually kind of like that line.
I'll make a map of your back. I'll do some fancy calligraphy with a nice compass rose and neat ledgers, and I won't forget to scale for accuracy. It's so stupid.
I actually kind of liked that line. I'll make a map of your back. That one worked for me. But yeah.
I don't know what kind of maps you guys look at. But when I see someone who's been flogged, that's not my first thought.
Okay, well, if you ever played Monkey Island, Curse of Monkey Island, that's what I think of. I'll make a map of your back.
Literally, yeah,
that's good. Anyways,
peels it off his skin.
Yeah. So So there's some issues I have. Okay, the actual escape scene is at the very end, so we'll talk about that later. But their plan, they said, okay, we've got to get someone up to the top of this trench and
so that we
the
can
view
see
line
where the
so
trees
we can
are.
see what's going on. And then 2 seconds later,
And then when
the
they're
orcs come and
asked
say,
to go
hey,
to the
go
top
up
of
to the top of there and chop down that tree. And
They
they say,
all
no,
say
we're not
no.
going to do it because we're elves and trees are spiritual to us. I'm like, that's literally your
That
plan.
was
You
phase
just
one of
said,
their plan.
we need to
and
find
they
some
all
excuse to get up
declined.
there.
They
I
all
was like,
declined because they don't want to chop down the tree, even though you
It's
look
so
around
dumb.
and there have already been thousands of trees that have been felled.
Yeah. It was just so asinine to me. I'm like, you just said that was your plan. You need to find some excuse. The orc came and gave you an excuse, and you just like ignore it.
Try to
And
escape, and I'll give you a
give you
nice
a-
orc tattoo.
Very
It'll
nice.
say "Mother" on it.
I heart mummy. Yeah. The other thing too is when the orcs fight or whatever, and they give him the water, and then they slit the guy's throat. He's like barely
It's a
bleeding.
scratch.
Yeah, it just
No,
barely
that-
scratched his throat.
Don't
and he's
ruin
like,
the joke because that's
"Oh,
going in my next
oh."
memes, Lord of the Memes video. I'm definitely not going to pull from Monty Python there, but
It's so
it's literally, and then it
laughable.
cuts to him on the ground, and he's not bleeding,
Yeah.
and he just dies.
He just
It
dies.
actually
And
makes me
That
think
would
that-
not kill you unless you bled out.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I was thinking, okay, maybe they don't want to show blood, but then in the very end, they have that beast
Really,
ripping out
yeah.
their intestines, and there's tons of blood there. I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
It really
There we
made me
go,
think that they were
There we go.
going for.
That's the
Yeah,
tattoo,
that's
though. It's
the one.
I Heart
Yep.
Mordor.
It really made me think that this is where they were deciding, oh, we're going to go for that Game of Thrones visceral, really brutal violence or whatever. But
And
then
it
they
was-
cut before it really starts gushing.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know what? I don't need that violence. So I was
But-
cool with that.
But
And then
then
it
they
doesn't
cut
really-
back to it, and he still
And it's
hasn't
still
done
not
any bleeding.
It's
Yeah.
And
like,
then
it's
when
like
they're
they
fighting
wanted
the
to go
warg,
for it.
When they're fighting the warg, they all
Mhm.
pick up weapons and then attack it one at a time.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's moronic.
Yeah.
I
Again,
did-
it looked like they were wanting to lean towards like, hey, this is the scene where we're going to be like our violent Game of Thrones that we were saying we want to be. Oh, but never mind. We're gonna scale it back because we don't want to do that. But we'll make up your mind. Do one or the other, and don't like make it seem like you're about to go for that, and don't do. I don't know.
And then,
I don't need that violence myself. I don't need that gore. But you shot it like you were expecting it to be gory, and that didn't work. Yeah.
And then the guy who does escape, right?
Immediately gets shot.
And then Black Olas sees him, and he's standing there and turns around, and he's got the arrow.
Mhm.
And then he gets shot from the opposite direction with the second arrow.
Yeah.
I noticed that, yeah.
Because they wanted to have the reveal where he turned around and didn't realize it made no logistical sense.
There is actually, if you look in the distance when before he turns, you can actually see a couple of orcs there. So it just means that their plan would have failed anyway because there are orcs that are, like you said, felling all the trees in a big, huge swath around their trench that they're
Yeah.
digging.
Yeah,
Also,
yeah.
it says that the orcs are like profound diggers, and yet they're making their slaves dig.
The elves do it, yeah, instead.
And
Yeah.
they're all doing a bad job.
Again, it's weird because they're calling it a tunnel, but it's barely a trench that's in the middle.
It's
of
not
this
a tunnel. It's an open trench that they've just covered with tarps.
covers. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know, it's
it
weird.
didn't make a whole lot of
insane.
sense.
There's no way they could have kept this a secret.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense that his company got captured after they left like a week ago, going the opposite direction.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know. I did like the reveal at the end where the elf was shot. I thought that was
did not.
Yeah, it was played okay, well enough for me.
Can we talk about that stupid Starbook heist with the Harfoots? That scene was so stupid and ridiculous.
Right.
Right.
Did you notice that the first instruction that she gives
away.
Nori is wrong? Her hand is almost touching it, and she says, "No, go to the right," and she leaves.
I didn't know what they were going for. I'm like, what is she?
It took me a minute to figure out what was
Yeah.
going on.
It was slapstick and stupid.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It didn't bug me too much, but it didn't work as well as I think they wanted it to. Yeah.
Well, my expectations for this third episode are now completely shot. I mean,
It's the worst one. It's the
Theirs
worst
were,
one.
but like,
Do we want to make commentary on our speculations about Halbrand and Stranger? Like they really
Halbrand,
leaned more into it that Halbrand's Sauron and
Halbrand, Sauron. Stranger is either
Gandalf.
is either going to be Gandalf
Probably.
or they're going to bait and switch and have him be Saruman. That's it.
Yeah, maybe,
Oh.
but I think they're leaning into this is going to be.
I think it's
gonna
Gandalf.
Be, Gandalf.
The real question is, and I know everyone's asking it: are Galadriel and Halbrand going to bang?
of course,
They're
Probably.
going to be romantically involved for sure.
of course.
They're certainly setting that up.
Yeah.
And then, so the ending thing too, where they're like, "No, we're not going to kill him. We're going to bring," even though they've been killing those pretty mercilessly.
Yeah, why did they not kill? Oh, so they bring him to
Adar,
Adar, and like it's.
And then we don't get a full reveal of it, but it sure looks like it's going to be an elf. That
Oh, it's
actually
an elf.
looks like a freaking elf.
It's an elf,
Yeah,
yeah,
because it actually has long hair.
The one time they show he's blurry, but you can immediately recognize it's an elf because it's the only one with long hair. Yeah,
And pointy ears.
Is it gonna be Gilgalad or whatever?
Gilgalad? No,
Because he's the only one that we've seen with long hair.
With long hair.
It's a made up character.
Yeah. You don't think this is going to be Sauron in disguise? Because canonically, he came as an elf.
It could be.
Came
But
as
again,
Anatar.
Halbrand's. I don't know. Maybe it's not Halbrand's as Sauron, but like, I don't think that's going to be Sauron because I think they're going to make us think that it's supposed to be Sauron as an elf in disguise or whatever. But they'll probably.
Talking back about the Harfoots. Did you guys notice one of the lines that Sadek Burrows, the leader guy, says when he's wrapping things up? He's like, "Now be careful because the moon is out. So be careful where you bang, because
Yes.
everyone will be able to see."
And we don't want to say that. Just kidding. Wait, what?
Yeah.
He doesn't use the term bang, but
I
that's
think
what
he
he's
says
saying.
shenanigans. But
Yeah,
yes.
Be
Careful
where-
where you go about your shenanigans or something like that.
because there's a full moon tonight and people will be able to see you banging.
Yeah. It's like that's a weird what? That was bizarre.
Oh, this is
I
a
agree
great
with Mark.
point.
He has a
This
really
is a
good point.
fantastic point. If you wanted to have a short hair elf, have it happen after they're captured as an insult.
As a form of torture, yeah, insult.
Yeah, like the whole like the Native American I don't know what it's called. I don't want to insult them by calling
Cutting
it
off
like a
your
rat tail.
braids.
They have like the ponytail thing, and if it gets cut off, and it's like a
Mhm.
oh, that would have been great.
Yeah.
You think Adar is going to be Anatar? I think that's
Sauron,
too
yeah.
easy. Anatar is
Then
the name
again-
of Sauron.
That's definitely. I think that's probably the direction they're going to go with it. But then it's probably going to be bait and
It's going to
switch
be
so that we can
like
get
a second in
Halbrand.
command. It's not going to be.
It's going to be the so that we're
It's
it's
a bait and
the red
switch.
herring that makes us not pay attention to Halbrand because I mean they're going to want to do a big gotcha like that. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. Maybe they'll keep it that way, but I bet you it's supposed to be just a gotcha.
Another
Also,
another beautiful metaphor from the episode. The tallest milkweed gets snipped. Go on.
yeah, that one's all right.
More for me.
So the other thing too is the Sauron's mark that he's been leaving everywhere. Apparently, it's a map to his exact location or something.
It's just
how
it's
stupid can
just a
you be?
picture of Mordor, and she's been searching for this for 300 years.
Yeah.
And when she discovers it, it's only because she goes to a secret library in Numenor where
They
they've been
happen to have a
they've
map.
been sitting on clues that were stolen from that a spy stole from an orc camp 300 years ago, and they never investigated. And she holds it up to a table that has a map inlay of it, but it's not a map of the entire. It's not a map of Middle Earth. It's just a map of Mordor.
Yeah.
Why on earth would you have an engraved table of just Mordor only for this reveal? Because these are the people of Numenor. They don't care about the Southlands.
Yep.
It's literally like the farthest away place they could possibly have a map of. And it's not just a map from the records, it's an engraven 3-dimensional table.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Yeah.
And then Galadriel says the quiet part out loud. Am I blind? Am I a moron? Yes. You are a stupid dum-dum head.
You are.
Yep. That's literally what I wrote down. Sauron's mark is a map. Like, how stupid can you be?
But she says it in episode 1. He leaves this mark behind to lead others to him. Maybe it's a map. I'm the map. I'm the map. I'm the map. I'm retarded.
That's what we need. That's what we need is a meme of that suddenly with the I'm the map. I'm the map.
Yes.
Do you see Sauron? Where? Halbrand? No. Vamos a Middle Earth. Let's go.
Yeah. Make your secret symbol an actual map to where you're hiding out.
Make your secret symbol a map to where you're trying to hide secretly. So moronic. It makes Galadriel look stupid. It makes Sauron look stupid. It makes your entire freaking show look stupid.
Also, the tapestry that they have in their room that has Elrond in there, it looks laughably bad.
It looks like the mural from my elementary school.
Yeah, painted by
and you can immediately tell that the one elf is Elrond because of how stupid he looks. and apparently he's had that same gay haircut for 300 years. No, longer than that. It would have been like 500 years since they painted that mural.
Yeah.
And this is Numenor, the peak of human society. Like, these were like perfect specimens. These are the Dunedain who live just as long as the elves.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were blessed by God, essentially. Like,
Martina's got another good comment in there.
Bilbo, no swiping.
Well, gentlemen, I've got to bounce.
Okay.
All right.
Oh,
it was a pleasure.
I think we've just about exhausted everything.
I've got to say though, Corwin, I watched She-Hulk, and then I went to the bathroom and threw up for 30 minutes, and then I watched Rings of Power, and I was so depressed, I flipped on HBO, and I watched Young Sheldon because you suggested it.
And
it's good. It's a good show. It was a very pleasant palate cleanser. I wouldn't call it the greatest comedy ever made, but it's a well-made family comedy. I think I would compare it. It's most comparable to Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah.
Although not as good as Malcolm in the Middle. But I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, it is. Young Sheldon is. Can you see Sheldon's mom as my mother?
Yes. I see his grandmother as your mother. More so.
That's a scary thought. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a fun family comedy.
But yes, I would definitely recommend Young Sheldon. I'm also watching Peaky Blinders. That's a brutal one.
It's nothing like The Big Bang Theory. I can't stand. I couldn't finish season.
Yeah,
I couldn't finish season 2 of The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, it is not The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, so. I kept going on The Big Bang Theory, but it's just kind of the same thing recycled over and over.
Sorry,
and over
I misspoke. Numenorians live 400 years. Yeah, okay. Thanks. They live for a long time. Okay,
definitely check out if you haven't seen Young Sheldon. It is funny. It is a good little show. It's clean. The comedy in it is very is very tasteful.
It's
Not
all
the best ever.
no, but it was all. It's also kind of heartfelt. It's a good depiction of special needs kids.
Yep.
And the family like pooling together to get by. I was surprised at how much I liked it.
All right, I've got to bounce. My kids are going crazy.
And it kept me from killing myself. So there's that.
That's always a plus.
Okay, well, I will see
All
you
right.
gents later.
Bye, Corin.
Bye.
Night. Those kids to bed.
So what I ended up watching this week, I've never seen Jaws, and I went to the theater because they had it re-released in theaters, and I went and saw Jaws, so that was pretty good.
That's a good
That's a
movie
good
to see in theaters.
Absolutely.
It was
so I had to watch it 3D, which was fine. It really wasn't terrible, but I was like, oh well, I guess I'm gonna have to watch this in 3D. But it was still really good.
Nice.
Good to see.
Yeah, it was Shark Week was a couple of weeks ago, I think, and I never pay attention to those things. But my aunt took my son out for the whole day, and they ended up watching Jaws because it was Shark Week, and so he got to watch it for the first time. That was fun. So, yeah.
The original blockbuster, even pre-Star Wars.
Yeah. I think that movie defined the term blockbuster, right?
I think so.
Uh,
That and then Star Wars coming along. Those
yeah.
were the two big ones that really made blockbuster being a thing.
Yeah, Jaws is super good. That movie does not get old. I rewatched it recently, and it's good. Excellent filmmaking.
Now the sequels, not so much.
I have
But the
not
original
watched
was good. Yeah, yes, you have. You watched the sequels. Yeah.
No,
you
I
watched
haven't.
Jaws: The Revenge with me.
I did not watch it with you, dude. I remember someone was renting it, and I was like, "Why would I want to watch this? This is garbage." I probably started it and walked out.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. The shark has a vendetta.
I had like two more notes from the Rings of Power. So they don't want any elves to be in Numenor, but then their punishment is to not let them leave.
Yeah.
I kind of thought that she was trying to make Elendil kill Galadriel, but
It kind of was
not.
Yeah, and then also the way that Galadriel just immediately threatens to murder Elendil,
Yeah.
and in the dumbest way possible because she's holding her knife like backwards and upside down.
Well, she pulls it out, takes like 3 steps to him while she's twirling it around, as if it was supposed to be sly and sneaky.
But if you're going to stab someone, this is the last way you would want to do it.
Yeah.
With the knife pointing this way and your arm backwards and upside down, you literally have no thrust.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you're this way, that's how you kill someone. Just saying. And she was just horrible to everyone. It's just immediately hostile without even trying to be diplomatic. And she's supposed to be like a princess. She's supposed to be a politician. Yeah. And they've turned her into the opposite of that. And I kept saying, I kept jokingly saying, like, come on, Galadriel, it wouldn't hurt to smile. And then they made her ride a horse.
Yeah, that scene was weird. Why were they doing this slow-mo thing? It was like, we're riding a horse.
And her smile was terrifying.
Yeah.
That
was a very weird scene.
Slow-mo.
There was that scene and the scene at the very beginning of the Harfoots doing their chant that were that I was like, wait, why are we kind of slow-moing on this like thing right here? This is a weird thing to be taking a lot of time on, you know?
It was really weird.
And it makes no sense that all of these people have heard about Galadriel. Galadriel, the scourge of the orcs, is the stupidest thing ever. It makes no sense that they would know about Galadriel if they haven't spoken to elves in hundreds of years. But they've heard rumors of the legendary Galadriel manspreader, and they already have marionettes made of her. And I wanted to illustrate one more line of just top tier the watery parts of this world have a way of healing even the deepest of wounds.
I did like the comeback to that though, like they did yours. Yeah.
What? The watery parts of this world?
It's because the sea is always right, Alan. That's
see, it makes sense now.
the sea is now a therapist that is going to tell you what is what you need, and
But
it will be
what,
right.
what if the whole twist? What if the whole twist is they're trying to say the sea is always alt right, and but it's actually so. But because of the generations of saying this, the slogan, it's been misinterpreted, and it was originally supposed to serve as a warning against all of the Republicans, but. And so that's where Sauron comes from, because they weren't looking at the seas, and that's
what their Hodor kind of thing. Like it's just been mis. It's not going to be their Hodor
wet
reveal.
Places of the world.
Oh, trust me, the wet places of you will make my world heal. I tried to spin it, didn't work. Yeah, she's a horse girl. Yeah, I bet Liz loved that scene. So
Yeah.
We'll have to see what she has to say about
that. I really want to hear what Liz has to say on all this.
I know. She's gonna come back on, but she's busy, so she can't do this every week. But I've just been putting her in the thumbnails because it sells. So she's supposed to come back on eventually. So the toilet water, the toilet water, seawater, the seas are always right. Yeah, it's just, this show is bad. Oh, and my final thought from the episode was, of course the orcs are being led by an elf. This is the Halo TV show all over again, where the entire alien race was being led by a human as the bad girl.
Yeah,
it's probably
because they obviously hate elves. Except they're being led by an elf. So why are they following an elf that...
Scar!
I guess at the very least they made that point when the elves showed up. They were like, why are they calling their leader by an elven, title or name or whatever? I guess. I don't know. It's just a confusing mess. That's the thing for me, is that I'm just confusing. And I'm enjoying being in the Lord of the Ringsy type looking world. But
it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys want to do some bad takes?
Oh yeah, we still have bad takes to do.
Yeah, we didn't really have a segue this episode. We just talked. First off, if you guys saw my video doing on the artificial intelligence, I made an artificial intelligence draw pictures of the characters from Rings of Power, and surprise, they're more accurate than Rings of Power.
I'll go check that out. I didn't know if that was just a clip from our last show or.
No, it's really good. It's really it took me like 3 days to edit, so please watch it. Please watch it. This week was really rough. I spent like 2 days working on the Memes of Power video. And then after it had uploaded and after it was released, Amazon blocked it, which isn't supposed to be. It's not supposed to be physically possible, because it passed all of the auto checks. It passed the content ID check, and then after it was published, like 24 hours later, they pulled it down.
So that must mean that someone manually flagged it.
Yeah. It was frustrating because it completely killed all of the momentum, and it's at like 20 views now, and I normally would have gotten like 500 for it.
Is the original video back up? Because you released all the shorts.
Yes, it's back up now, but it's not going to send out a new notification. So people already got the notification for a video that they can't watch, and so it completely shut down all the momentum, and like my entire channel shut down for the last 3 days. I got like 0 views. And I lost like 7 subscribers.
Really?
And it's kind of hard to not imagine that might be correlated.
Yeah.
But they've started going up again. So it's been a rough week. So I did that, and then I worked really hard on the AI video, and that one's not getting a lot of views either. But I worked really hard on it, so go watch it. But our regular viewer, Jacob Ironside, asked for some of those pictures that I made, and he cleaned some of them up with Photoshop. I want to show those real quick.
Yeah.
So this was one of them. This is a Lendil.
Nice.
And the problem with the AI is because it literally like iterates on these things and generates them. It sometimes has artifacts of like weird things like around the eyes, and so this one's been. So this is the original, and this is the cleaned up, like smoothing out some of the wrinkles. It's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, cleaning up the eyes there a little bit.
But this one's amazing. This is Tarmiriel, and you can see she's kind of got like a bit of a cleft lip because of and her eyes are kind of weird. And this is the cleaned up version, which is
nice.
Amazing.
Yeah,
well done, Jacob.
Which I will say, I forgot to mention, I did like her outfit in the show. That's the first one that looked really well done.
Her regal outfit looks good, and then it hasn't shown it yet. But when she changes into her armor, it doesn't.
Those are the ones we've seen of her on the horse.
In her spandex scale mail print,
yeah, that's we've already talked about that.
And her spiky helmet, that's completely ridiculous. Really cool. This is hot. So, good job on that. I have weird feelings about artificial intelligence now. So, good job, Jacob. Some impressive Photoshop. Okay. There's lots to do. We've got some bad takes. We also have an incredibly nuanced segment. So which do you want to hear first?
Nice.
It would have been smart to like space these out as like a segment, but it was weird timing. What do you guys want
first? Bad takes
first?
is usually kind of our transition. So
whatever you want. I also remembered I did get up the screenshot of what I was talking about last episode about the bad use of the bad version of forced perspective.
I forgot to look it up. Did you screenshot it?
I got it right here. I installed
share your screen.
I installed Firefox so I can do this. Hopefully this works.
That's how I rip all of the
So this is I think this is episode 2. You guys see it?
No.
No, you're not sharing your screen yet. Yes, there it is.
Share. You got to.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is episode 2?
Yeah, so this is episode 2. Look at this here. So you've got him. They're assuming on the same ground, right? She's up higher. But this is where his waist ends, right? The rest of him is legs. Yeah. So the entire length of her body
is legs. You're right.
That's too much legs. They literally just
stilts.
put this actor on stilts, and it's just off-putting. It's weird.
Yeah,
you know, his torso should be taller than that.
That is not forced perspective.
That is not that, and he's in the background. Like, anyways, so that was episode 2. What happened? So they did the same thing in episode 3. Not as bad as episode 2, but right here at the very end, what's going on? Just
okay. David. Why didn't you take screenshots, you dummy?
I'm sorry, I didn't have time. I remembered right as we were getting on. Okay, never mind. They did it in episode 3 too, but the one in episode 2 was better. And it got rid of the time. I had it paused right on the time. It's right here. So same deal, right? You can't see it as much, but like from here down, that's his legs. It's just like his legs are too tall.
Yeah,
you know,
he's on like platform boots or something.
Yeah, they got some tall shoes or some stilts.
It's not proportional to the wagon. You're right.
Yeah, but I think it's a little bit easier to see in episode 2.
It reminds me of the fawn from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah, But
Yeah,
I mean,
Jacob,
he had
that's a good point.
non-human legs, so
Yes, I allude to this in the video that I made with the AI. She was never crowned queen.
She was supposed to be, but
Yeah.
Well, instead of acknowledging the fact that that sort of stuff happened and was taken away from women where it was, they just were like, well, we want to actually show her being the queen.
Well, it's stupid though, because
Whatever.
there were some queens of Numenor.
Hmm.
There were queens. I think there were 3 queens of Numenor out of the 8 king rulers that total.
yeah.
And they picked one that never was. Who
queen that never
knows
was.
why? I don't know why.
Yeah. It's weird.
Okay. We're gonna do some bad takes now. So here's the stinger, everybody. Bad. It's bad. Screen rants. Bad takes. Why can't elves go back home to Valinor in the Rings of Power? Because the showrunners made it up.
Yeah.
It's not canon. I don't know why she swallowed the fly. Hopefully, they'll die. Good question, but stupid answer. If the Meteor Man is Gandalf, it'll explain a big Hobbit mystery and create so many other plot holes.
Yep.
But this article is worse than just that, because it's saying that it's justifying the Rings of Power by bringing down the original trilogy and the Hobbit, because Gandalf was always partial. Gandalf was always fascinated with hobbits. He was also partial to hobbits, and it was always left unexplained. No, it wasn't. And despite the fact that it was never presented in Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power is finally telling us why Gandalf likes the Hobbit so much. Is because the Harfoots helped him out when he was a space boy.
The thing that's frustrating,
they tell you why he likes the Hobbits, though, multiple times in The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Well, and again, we even speculated that this might be something that they were doing to add some depth to that. But there's a difference between saying like, "Oh, this was a big mystery and plot point and big plot hole," versus saying like, "Oh, that could add some depth to it." Like,
if they wanted to write this article correctly, they could say it's justifying why Gandalf knew that the hobbits existed, because up until the Third Age, and specifically the late Third Age that the Lord of the Rings takes place in, the hobbits literally come out of nowhere. There are several points during the book where people are like, I've never heard of hobbits, because they don't mingle with other races. They were kind of nomadic, and then they hid up in Hobbiton.
Yeah.
They never left. They never go on trips.
Yeah.
So Gandalf, plucking Bilbo and Frodo out of the Shire was the first time like anyone had ever left.
Yep.
So
and he did so because they were unassuming and they were overlooked.
Yes. There are lines where like the hobbits will literally like blend into their surroundings.
Yeah.
Which is where they're getting the stupid crap with the Harfoots putting sticks in their leaves, which they wouldn't have needed to do, because that's the entire point of a hobbit, is they go unnoticed without stupid crap in their hair.
Which is why Bilbo was such a great thief for them to have. Yep.
Yeah.
Go to San Francisco though, and you'll see a bunch of people that look like the Meteor Man. That is true.
Yeah, that's sad but true.
Downtown Seattle. What a terrifying place. We recently took a trip to Seattle and never left the hotel because it was terrifying.
A lot of camps out there.
And we had all of our kids with us, and it was terrifying. Here's another bad take. A racist backlash to Rings of Power puts Tolkien's legacy into focus. Because Tolkien was racist for not including any black characters.
Yep.
Except that little thing they're saying that apparently people saying that are missing the point of the author entirely. What?
It's stupid. This article shifts the goalposts like so many times. It's stupid, but with the title, they're trying to imply that Tolkien was problematic for not writing any black characters, which is funny. But you also can't have it both ways and say that the real reason Tolkien is turning in his grave is because the fans are being racist, which you can't claim if you're also trying to claim that Tolkien was racist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So go screw yourselves.
Can't have it both ways.
I just want to see the world that Tolkien wrote adapted in as best as possible.
Yeah.
I don't want to see our world reflected in his fantasy.
The thing that most frustrates me is that bit there where it's like, oh, because we have a problem with them having an agenda with the way that they're doing things, we apparently don't like black people or black elves or anything like that. And it's like, no, like, quit pushing away people who could be your allies by saying, oh, if you don't agree, quit being like the Sith and saying, if you're not with us, you're against us. Like,
yeah.
There's
a difference between trying to be more inclusive and trying to like push things. I don't know.
It is funny though that the Jedi have a saying that only the Sith deal in absolutes, which in and of itself is an absolute.
Yeah.
But like, you can't claim that Tolkien's racist and then also claim that he's not racist. Yeah. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. It's not the worst article we're going to see today. Lord of the Rings fans are divided on the Rings of Power. Is there harsh? Let me start over for the short, right? Lord of the Rings fans are divided on the Rings of Power. Is their harsh criticism justified? Yes. Yeah, it's that simple. This isn't Tolkien.
Yep.
Okay. Enough with that one.
Moving on.
The Rings of Power subverted Frodo's big mission with Theo.
What?
It's dumb.
Wait, what?
First off, we haven't even seen. We've only seen Theo in one episode, and he found a sword that like turns on when you bleed on it.
And helped his mom kill an orc, I guess.
But it's poetic because it's a mirror of Frodo's journey, because Frodo has to like bring something to Mordor and destroy it and save the world, but Theo is going to bring his sword to Mordor and give it to Sauron and destroy the world, or some bull crap like that. But it's poetic.
What?
Interesting.
So that
I'm just lost. Whatever.
Yeah, I don't understand what they're going for.
It's dumb. I don't either, and I read the article. So this one pisses me off though.
Oh my goodness. I've been seeing so many articles with the same exact title. Harsh realities of rewatching fill in the blank.
It's crazy that so many people are complaining about the quality of Rings of Power, because if we take a closer look at the Peter Jackson's trilogy, we will notice some glaring flaws that, now that time has passed, are hard to overlook. Glaring flaws like the jokes weren't very funny.
Always a matter of personal taste.
It's not supposed to be a comedy.
Have you laughed at any of the jokes in Rings of Power? No.
Yeah, it's a good point.
The jokes in The Lord of the Rings are hilarious.
Yeah. It comes in points.
What about second breakfast? Levensies, afternoon tea? Has he heard of those?
Where are we going?
It's so
the
good.
Humor is amazing. I can't think of a single joke that doesn't land.
Yeah, especially in the first one, Fellowship. There's lots of jokes and banters with the hobbits. It's great.
You want to know the reason why the jokes land? Because, well, first off, the writers are good, but second off, the characters delivering the jokes are charming and you like them.
And they're relatable.
They're not like Galadriel, who you hate.
Yeah.
Other glaring flaws include Boromir's character wasn't as deep in the theatrical version. So watch the extended version. Yeah, they didn't have a lot of time in the theatrical versions. They were already 4-hour movies.
He literally agreed to do the theatrical versions, recognizing that you couldn't put a 4-hour movie in the theaters, especially at that time. And he said, okay, I'll cut it down to this to be the theatrical version if you can guarantee that I'll get this director's cut, the extended editions that we can release on DVD.
Yeah. I wonder if the rest of the things are going to be, the theatrical version leaves out Saruman.
It's funny you should bring that one up.
Is that the next one? Yeah, that's the next one. Yes.
Saruman's fate isn't resolved in the theatrical version. Then watch the extended version.
Yep.
Those
maybe
are
they'll
the
give
ones
us
I watch every time.
Maybe they'll give us an extended version of Rings of Power that will somehow make sense and
please
somehow.
God no. They are already too long. I have trouble staying awake during these episodes of Rings of Power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 7, Elrond wouldn't just let Isildur walk away.
Well,
Also,
turns
he wouldn't.
invisible.
He also wouldn't get a haircut that makes him look like a moron. So,
Touche.
Yeah,
you know, the ring that turns you invisible when you put it on. Elrond wouldn't have had a choice.
Yep.
and that's the thing is like that's straight from the actual story, the actual
Tolkien
story. Like,
you mean the movie was lore accurate?
and you're like, oh,
but
you mean
it's hard to overlook on a rewatch because now we're used to things breaking and shattering canon.
Yeah.
Faramir's characterization is frustrating.
Sure, again, fixed in the more so in the extended version.
I agree that Faramir is better in the books than he is in the movies, but he was already my favorite character in the movies before I'd read the books. Because he's cool in both.
yeah. He figures it out, even though he's because he's struggling with the expectations of his father and living up to how his father views Boromir. So he's like, he does actually recognize, even in the movies, he does recognize the danger, but he's trying to like be patriotic and do what he's been told to do. And then he realizes like that was a great arc. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
But if any of us are frustrated by Galadriel's characterization in the Rings of Power, we're called bigots.
Right.
So.
Yeah, double standard.
Thanks for that, CBR. The Ents should have made the decision to attack Saruman on their own. Yeah, that's how it happens in the books. And I thought it was actually a good change in the movies because it made Merry and Pippin more involved in the plot. And,
yeah, it was great.
And you kind of have to make changes like that in adaptation so that everyone's doing something.
And again, it was another.
It's something that you would.
Moment.
It's something that you would understand if you knew how to write good television.
Yeah. And going back to their first point, it's another humorous moment that it was a funny joke. They got together, they walked slow, and they took forever to deliberate just to decide that they're not going to war. And then
this is the.
It also shows Merry and Pippin's character growth.
Yeah.
Well, and it's honestly, Merry and Pippin didn't convince them. Oh, you have to attack.
No, they tricked him.
It was.
They showed him.
They showed them the thing that these guys are saying here.
you could argue, and it wouldn't be hard to do so because it would be correct, that the Ents did make the decision on their own.
All on their own. As soon as they saw the actual things that was going on, which Merry and Pippin tricked them into seeing, but once they saw that, because they're saying like, oh, the Ents should have been willing to defend Fangorn Forest on their own as soon as they saw the trees being destroyed. Well, that's when they decided to make that, and they did make that decision. Yeah. Once they saw that that's what was going on, they made the decision not to, when they didn't realize what was happening to Fangorn Forest yet.
Yeah, because most of them were just like sleeping and not doing anything.
Most of them were sleeping. There were a lot fewer of them than
they were just brooding over their lost Entwives.
Yeah.
Exactly.
These are the dumbest. They're
we're only halfway. We're only halfway through, though. We're only halfway through, boys. But the Lord of the Rings is problematic. Gandalf should have been able to defeat the Witch King.
Because he's not a man.
Okay.
This is probably their only valid criticism of the movie.
His staff exploding is kind of...
Yeah, they added a fight between the Witch King and Gandalf in the movie.
It was cool, though.
It looked cool, though, okay?
Yeah.
It didn't break that much canon.
Yeah, it didn't break canon. It just...
Compared to what we're dealing with Rings of Power.
Yeah.
It's minuscule, boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mind that. I mean, they're both...
liked it, okay?
They're both holders of Rings of Power.
It showed how scary the Witch King was, and then you got to see him die, stabbed in the mouth.
With feminism.
I liked it. Denethor's death wasn't as hardcore.
Burning off of a cliff isn't hardcore enough for you?
Their complaint is that they made it cooler in the movies.
Oh, it's not as hardcore in the books.
In the books, he just kind of dies. He burns on the pyre. But in the movies, they made him fall from the tower because it's one of the coolest shots in the entire trilogy.
Yeah.
That's an awesome shot.
But it's so hard to rewatch.
Yeah.
Oh.
The filmmakers decided that Denethor was too despicable to be given that much dignity. What?
Because in the books, he kind of kills himself. He like throws himself on the pyre and he burns to death.
He still killed himself. Like he is.
Yeah. But you got to have a cool shot of him running and then seeing just how big the city was. And then the best part about that is wordlessly, it's very poetic with Denethor being so self-absorbed and making this all about himself and trying to burn his son alive. Mm-hmm. And then you see him finally come to his demise, and he starts running out, and it's big, and he's on fire, and then it zooms out, and he starts falling from this building, and it keeps zooming out to the point where he becomes so small you don't even see where he lands. Mm-hmm. And it shows you how unimportant his character was.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. It was beautiful.
Because that's not what the story was about. It was about saving Middle-earth.
Yeah, it was a good change.
Good scene. Yeah, it's a good scene until you see how far you would have had to run while on fire to be able to fall off the edge of the cliff. Okay, technicality, rule of cool, baby, shut up. But here's more complaints. Frodo doesn't feel as heroic.
Because he decided that he wasn't going to throw it in?
I don't know. Frodo does a lot of great things in the movies. He's the one who decides to take the One Ring to Mordor. He's to carry it to Mount Doom. He sacrifices people. These are all.
Is there another paragraph under that?
Sorry,
probably because he has the moment of weakness and decides he wasn't going to throw it in.
I haven't gotten there yet, David. Okay, but so far, these are. If I had to guess, these are all things that sound pretty heroic.
Pretty darn heroic, yeah.
Okay.
Very heroic, yeah.
However, it's problematic because he isn't black. There are moments when Frodo doesn't feel as heroic as he should, most notably when he sends Sam's away and trusts Gollum's word over his friend. You mean like when he was manipulated by Gollum? To add some tension to the
having
movie?
Been incredibly manipulated by the ring the entire time.
Frodo's desire to redeem Gollum is noble, but he acts incredibly foolish,
heroic,
and it undermines his heroism. That is just a trait of heroism.
Yeah, he's wanting to see the best in people.
That
he
makes
sees
him
himself in Gollum. And he doesn't
more heroic than he was in the book.
That's amazing. That's one of my favorite things. He sees himself in Gollum. He wants to believe that Gollum
because
is
he knows that
redeemable
he too is being corrupted by the ring, and he feels bad.
Exactly.
When he sees Gollum, he says, "Now that I see you, I pity you, because I feel you, bro. I know what happened to you because it's happening to me, and that's why he can never return to the Shire." And instead of just kicking him aside, he empathizes. Don't you want your heroes to have empathy? Or do you want them to be like Galadriel, who are soulless Hadigans?
Well, and you also have the fact that like Gollum was actually on the relative path to some kind of redemption until the twist with Faramir and
the misunderstanding that wasn't Frodo's fault.
Yeah, and it's like, so he wasn't foolish to trust Gollum. Yeah, Gollum had then taken another 180 at that point. But again, Frodo himself had been being manipulated and twisted by the ring as well to be distrustful.
Even if he was foolish in the moment, that's also a trait of heroism. Yeah, that's literally a common trope. Is that heroes trust people when they often shouldn't, and that's like a common villain line is like, your weakness is your trust, and it will betray you, like
your faith in your friends.
Exactly. Weakness, right? And they always say like, oh, because you care about people, they're your weakness because you'll if I take one of them hostage, you'll give up everything to save them, right? Like,
yeah, that's the epitome of heroicism there. All right, what's the number one? I gotta know.
Okay. Number one reason is it's impossible to reclaim that first viewing experience. Go die.
Okay, so because it's not as good watching it again, it's not.
These are not
stupid.
Parallel, like
again. The harsh realities of rewatching The Lord of the Rings is that it's not going to be as good as when you saw it in theaters. I beg to differ because when I saw it in theaters, I was watching the theatrical cuts, and it was freaking awesome. Okay, but then after it was about 10 years later, I learned that you're telling me there's more. There's more of the thing that I absolutely loved. Every single time I rewatch these films, I find something new to love. And that is what makes them great. They are timeless masterpieces because of how poetic they are and because of how much care these people put into creating Tolkien's legacy. And Rings of Power doesn't hold a candle to these films, despite the billions of dollars pumped into them. Like we can say, Rings of Power looks pretty. It looks phenomenal. But the dialogue is so cringy. You can tell that these people didn't ever really care.
Yeah.
Money can't buy passion.
Yep. The other thing that I think is a little like, I've heard people point out that even the Lord of the Rings films, they play around with the canon. They play around with it. They change and alter things here and there
a little bit.
So it's like, if you want to make a criticism like this to say like, oh, you guys are having a problem with the fact that they've changed things from the books, and you want to point out some of those things, it's still not going to be a great comparison because there's little changes as opposed to like wide sweeping changes that completely change like the entire not just the arc of a character. Because one of the examples that I've heard a lot about is Aragorn doesn't have a character arc in the books because that's not the point of the books. but they make it more interesting in the films by giving them a character arc.
Yeah.
And there are people that complain about that. I know people that don't like that because they liked their Aragorn the way that he was in the book. But that's so different than being like, oh, we're going to take all these things that don't fit in the same time period, and we're going to put them all in the same time period, and we're going to make this person on a totally different, like,
we're going to completely remove Galadriel's husband so that she can have a love affair with Sauron.
Yeah. Well, and you can even say, like, okay, so maybe you decide to change her character so that she'll have a character arc that goes from this warrior to this wise, queen or whatever later on, except that they don't set that up to be anything that allows her to show that growth. Because you see from the beginning, Aragorn is wrong about the fact that, like, oh, he's nervous about it or whatever that is his reason behind it, and he grows and realizes, no, I do need to step forward and do this. Yeah. But she's not going to be able to have that kind of an arc because she's right, kind of, even though she's, I don't know.
Yeah. The only arc that they could pull off for her is her realizing that she can't do this alone and she needs other people.
Yeah.
And she needs to rely on them and have.
But that's still not even going to really be a good arc. That's going to bring her to where we see her in the Lord of the Rings films, and
exactly.
It's one of those things where, like honestly, the articles like this frustrate me because, to your point, they're just tearing down, or they're trying to tear down the thing, the originals. But if you feel like there's an argument to be made about something like, hey, you guys are saying there's a problem with it changing canon for this show, well, then this one change canon, and then actually make the right argument, even if, as we've just demonstrated,
I know just off the top of our heads, we can come up with better reasons.
Yeah, we can come up with better things.
And we weren't paid by Amazon to write this article.
Well, you could say, there's the thing with Aragorn. There's the lack of Tom Bombadil. There's a lot of things that were not in the movies that were in the books. That, we could point that out and we can say that's not okay, but whatever. Just make an actual good argument if you're going to make an argument instead of just saying, like, this is terrible,
Because they don't have a good argument.
Right.
Yeah.
They're just making lists and pumping out content.
Because they are inherently wrong.
Well, and again, they can even be wrong, but, like, at least make the right kind of argument that you can be wrong about, if that makes sense. Again,
the problem is they're not coming at this from a place of truth.
Well,
they're not coming at this from a place of passion. If they actually cared about these things, they would be able to say what we've said.
Mm-hmm.
I can come up with flaws from the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And these people can't, because they never cared about them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't tell you the number of times I've watched these movies either. I genuinely do not know. It's been so many times.
Yeah.
Yep.
They were my birthday presents each year that they came out.
They are absolutely perfect.
Go watch them on my birthday or for my birthday. They came out right around then.
It's a good birthday present.
Mm-hmm. Those are all the Lord of the Rings articles, but we still have some more bad takes, everybody. CBR says...
Oh, no. Come on now.
Next.
Top Gun Maverick has too much Tom Cruise.
Well, that's why it's obviously failing at the box office, because people hate how much Tom Cruise is in it, so they're just not going to watch it. And boy, this was such a bomb because Tom Cruise had such an ego that he put himself in it too much. What?
The new Top Gun focuses so much on Maverick that it misses out on any kind of real story for the young pilots who make up the rest of the cast.
It's literally called
because Top Gun the story's not about them.
It's about him, and it is actually about Rooster. Rooster has some pretty good growth there.
Yeah,
it's about him and Rooster. The rest of them are
how many
pieces of the puzzle.
How many people did the original Top Gun movie focus on, Jared?
Just Maverick and Rooster,
Maverick and his co-pilot, and his competition with Val Kilmer. Sure.
Yeah, Goose. There we go, Goose.
But
Goose and Ice. Those three. That's it.
But you really didn't know anything about Val Kilmer's character.
Yeah,
and there was like one scene of character growth at the very end when he learns to respect Maverick, and he gets to shoot down one of the planes, right? he saves their life. He saves
This is
Maverick's
so
life.
We get more growth out of Hangman, and more, not necessarily growth, but more of a storyline from Hangman than we did from Val Kilmer's Iceman. Because
yeah. But the problem is this is the exact same thing from the last article. These people are not writing these articles from a place of sincerity.
Yeah.
They are writing this article to tear down Top Gun Maverick because they are incapable of creating greatness themselves, and they are jealous. They are they are furious that this movie is performing so well.
And they're just pumping out content,
and that they are performing so poorly in their own lives that they have to find something great to tear down to make themselves feel good.
To David's exact initial point, it's called Top Gun Maverick, and they're saying, they go, oh, but it's still striking how much the film
his
is
name is in the title.
Yeah. Exactly. I just think they're picking these titles to be sensational. It's like, oh, somebody had a problem with Top Gun Maverick. I'm going to read that article.
I will say that article on the side there, Why Last Jedi has the worst opening crawl in Star Wars. It's probably because they decided to just have it start 5 seconds after the previous one, and I think actually Rise of Skywalker's is probably worse. And I try really hard to defend the sequels.
Palpatine returned.
Yeah, no, Rise of Skywalker is worse, so you're wrong there. But also, and I try to defend the sequels. I do, but gosh, there's at least a halfway decent article. I don't know. Anyway,
yep.
We got a couple more. Apple Watch Ultra versus Apple Watch Series 8, which is right for you? Neither. Don't buy them. It's silly. Your phone does the exact same thing. Just buy a regular watch. Moving on. What happens to Jane Foster after Thor: Love and Thunder? She's dead.
Watch Thor: Love and Thunder if come on.
There's an after credit scene where she goes to Valhalla because she's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on. She-Hulk's smartphone lock screen is one of the funniest Marvel Easter eggs yet. Oh, you mean the lock screen where she objectifies Captain America after spending 2 whole episodes complaining about getting catcalled? Yep. Hilarious. I just love the smell of hypocrisy in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Double standards, and instead of trying to elevate the lower standard to be equal, and that way they're saying, oh, we're going to bring down the second standard to make it worse, so everybody's terrible, rather than trying to make everybody better.
So funny though. It's hilarious.
It's like so funny, and like that's not where you think.
What?
Thor: Love and
in the pantheon of gods,
omnipotent city. Yeah.
Let me read it. Thor: Love and Thunder almost included a cameo from Jesus Christ. Taika Waititi recently gave an interview where he joked about one of his jokes being, because we're showing all these gods, and so I was going to do like a cutaway gag where we get to see Jesus Christ.
That would have went over real well in the theater. I'll tell you what.
I hated this movie. It's not a good movie, and they keep releasing deleted scenes, and it keeps making the movie even worse.
Really?
Something happened to Taika Waititi. I used to love his work, and he's either done a lot of drugs or participated in a lot of rituals in Hollywood. Because he has gone completely insane.
I think he's got the M. Night Shyamalan thing going on, because M. Night Shyamalan had great movies, and then he got too caught up in him being M. Night Shyamalan, and really leaning into all these different twists and whatever.
Yeah.
And it tanked and it did not work. And I think Taika Waititi is probably doing the same sort of thing where he's like, ooh, my thing has been working so well, I'm going to triple and quadruple down on it in a way that is not working.
Yeah.
I didn't laugh at a single joke in Thor: Love and Thunder. And I really like Taika Waititi's humor. But it was in this movie, it was insulting.
And I was watching. I've been watching the recent season of What We Do in the Shadows, and I think there were 2 episodes so far that I found enjoyable. The rest of them were just kind of like,
what season are they on?
Good. I think is it 3 or 4?
Season 1 is absolutely hilarious.
The first 2 seasons are fantastic. The 3rd season is okay, and but this last season there were 2 episodes that I thought were really good, and the rest of them are just like, what? Like
it's
nothing happened. It's not.
I think
not as funny anymore. I don't know.
I think the movie is better than the TV show anyway.
Yeah.
The What We Do in the Shadows.
I've only seen the movie. I haven't seen the show.
So it is so funny, and the cast is better.
We're werewolves, not swearwolves.
It's so good, but like it's just so sad to see how Hollywood has ruined this man.
Yeah.
So. Jennifer Lawrence complains about $25 million salary for Don't Look Up because Leonardo DiCaprio was paid more than her.
He's the bigger name.
I mean, I can take your 25 million any day, and you can have my measly salary.
You want to know what makes this even worse, guys?
You make 25.3.
Here's the thing. Compared to Leonardo DiCaprio, yes, she made less money because people don't like her as much as they like freaking Leonardo DiCaprio. Okay.
I mean, how many Oscars has Leonardo DiCaprio won?
Just the one.
Just the one, actually.
Yeah.
Just the one? I thought it was more than one.
No, it's just the one. It's just the one for The Revenant. He should have won several. I think he should have won an Oscar for his performance in Django Unchained. Holy crap, that was incredible. If you compare Jennifer Lawrence's salary to other actresses in Hollywood, guess where she ranks?
Right up at the top.
The top 1%.
Really?
Well, and to be fair, to a degree of this argument about because it's about the gender disparity. So where does she fall compared to the rest of her other co-stars besides Leonardo? You know?
Yeah.
She was the second build.
Exactly.
Yeah. So as the second build,
but I'm sorry,
paid as much as the top build.
You're never going to make as much money as Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
Like one of the greatest actors of all time.
Yeah. Like he's been a hot commodity since What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Titanic, dude.
Yeah.
No, before that. What's Eating Gilbert Grape was before that, wasn't it?
I haven't seen that one. That was
I haven't either, but I've heard about it.
Yeah, you did.
I thought that was Johnny Depp.
No, it was Johnny Depp and Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah. Leonardo DiCaprio played the brother with disabilities. I think it was a really good performance. Movie, I hated that movie. It was a dumb movie, but he did a really amazing performance there.
Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence has gone crazy. She also recently completely threw her family under the bus and said, like, I don't talk to them anymore because they're conservative.
Why do we have to polarize everything? Why does people I mean, honestly, we do a lot of it on the show too, but like, why do you have to say, oh, because they're conservative, I don't talk to them anymore? Like, that's terrible. That's awful. It's not like I don't talk to liberal members of my family. I'd have a real hard time with that.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like, Hollywood is an evil place. It's full of psychopaths and degenerates. And yet it's Hollywood that lectures the rest of the world about the Me Too movement, and when they created the casting couch, right? If you think Harvey Weinstein was the only one, you're delusional.
Yeah,
everyone knows what a casting couch is. Because it was a common thing, okay, but they lecture us on inclusion and diversity when they are. How does Obi-Wan describe Tatooine? A festering swamp of hive and scum and villainy. Hollywood has no morals, and it is laughable that they try and lecture us on our morality.
I will give one more plug to the idea of, again, I'm not going to actually recommend this show because this show is a family show, but the show that I'm going to talk about, The Boys, is not a family show. But they do a lot of, they even make some commentary about how Vought, this evil organization, virtue signals with all these different things that they're trying to say, but they just don't care at all. But they make it look like they do. They pretend like they do, just like Hollywood wants to do for us. All these different things. So, you need to do this. You need to be, and honestly, some of the messages that they have, some of them are sometimes, at least the idea is right, but then they go about it all wrong. They tell us that we're terrible for even being slightly different than what they're saying.
Oh, I forgot about it. Yes, she also recently said that she has nightmares about Tucker Carlson. Which is like, if you're gonna like have dreams about a Republican pundit, like you could do a lot worse than Tucker Carlson.
I mean, Dan Crenshaw's got a scary pirate iPad, right? That's intimidating.
Like he's kind of attractive, right? Like Tucker Carlson's he's a pretty boy, right? Right? He's a handsome dude.
I don't know. I don't swing that way.
I just don't pay attention. I'm so sick of politics.
Yeah.
It's just so sad because she used to actually be kind of conservative, and she was praised a lot for that. But well, this has been depressing, but it's been a while since we've done this. But we're going to top it off with a nice little Babylon Bee article that ties into She-Hulk.
Goody.
Because Daredevil thanks God. He thanks God. Can't even read.
That's good.
Dude, just read it. I can't anymore.
Daredevil thanks God he's blind, learning She-Hulk twerk with Megan Thee Stallion. Yeah.
According to sources, Hell's Kitchen superhero Daredevil was overheard thanking God for making him go blind.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
That's been it's a fun time. We have fun on the show. Worked up. It's been a long show. I do have one final segment though. Before we head out, let me just double check my notes to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Go see 13 Lives. It's freaking good. Don't watch She-Hulk. I'm not gonna force you guys to keep watching, but I'm gonna keep watching. If you want to talk about it, we can. Rings of Power sucks, and I wanted to talk about a tweet. That I saw. It's a real person, but I've covered up the name because I don't want anyone to hate on this person. First off, because I don't think it would be helpful. I don't think it would change her mind. And it's the internet is already a disgusting place. But this tweet in particular is emblematic of a lot of the problems that our society is plagued with today because of all of this radicalization and polarization. Here it is. Dear old men that I've never spoken to, do not call me dear, sweetheart, darling, and definitely don't call me a good girl. I am a good girl, but I'm not your good girl. # blocked. I'm going to get on a soapbox here. I'm not going to say your name, but you look like a nice girl. But you have become so vile that you are now completely incapable of feeling empathy. You've been poisoned for so long by an echo chamber of liberal arts professors and psychopaths on Twitter that you are now completely blind to the reality of the human experience. This poor old man meant you no ill will when he mistakenly referred to you as a sweetheart, not knowing himself of your heart's current blackened state. You are so consumed in your vitriol and narrow worldview that you leapt at the opportunity to jump down this man's throat, assuming that the only possible motive for his choice in words was sexist objectification. You're so short-sighted that you could not comprehend the fact that this man was not acting in malice, but in cordiality, in accordance with ancient customs long since lost to modern feminism. This old man was simply being nice. And you managed to return an act of kindness with hate. What a pitiful existence to live in a world where to live in a world that you believe is constantly working against you. Take the wool from your eyes, stop choosing negativity, else the only thing you will have gotten right here is the fact that no man should ever refer to you as a good girl. That's been incredibly nuanced.
Incredibly nuanced.
Old people just talk that way because
Yeah.
they're nice.
Yeah. The vilification of people like that, it's so stupid that they're vilifying people trying to be nice. And it sucks because some of it stems from people who have been terrible, but it's like you're calling good evil and evil good, legitimately, straight up.
But when you do this, you are minimizing the people who have actually had terrible things happen to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you want to be a victim here.
Yeah, it was pretty sad. It's also shutting down conversation too. You know,
that's my biggest problem.
Just like,
I'm
not going to talk about this. I'm gonna throw this out there, tell you you are wrong and you're a terrible person, and I'm not going to let you give a chance to defend yourself.
Because they can't seem to understand that there are sometimes things called nuance. Oh wait, that's the name of the segment.
Incredibly nuanced.
That's my favorite stinger.
She also,
if you guys
took
ever
the
have
time
if you guys ever have a soapbox, just let me know so I can use that.
incredible
Okay.
nuance. It's a good stinger. She also took the time to spell out hashtag. And that's not how hashtags work. Just a side note.
All this hashtaggery.
Oh, it has been a very rough week for me. I had to watch She-Hulk and Rings of Power, and dealing with all this YouTube crap has been frustrating. And having two kids, or three kids. One of them is old enough though that he helps out a lot, but two babies at the same time it's been rough. So there were some highlights though. 13 Lives was absolutely beautiful. I cannot recommend it enough.
I'd love to highlight. I'd love to even highlight some of what Martina was saying there. The difference between, like, there are people who use these terms of endearment to demean, but to pretend like the only time it's ever used is to demean is willful ignorance. And,
yeah, like if you do it in like a
unnecessarily-
Boston accent, like oh, come over here, sugar, come over here, sweetheart, give me something. You know, yeah, okay, that's swarmy, okay. But she was talking about old people.
Yeah.
That's just part of their dialect.
Mhm.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that's been trained out of us because we're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, we're not allowed to be gentlemen anymore.
Yeah. It's pretty ridiculous.
Sweetheart. Imagine getting offended by an old man saying, "Oh, thanks for bringing me my food, sweetheart. That was lovely of you."
Yeah, she's got an
The nerve.
example right above that too.
Don't call me a sweetheart. I'm not your good girl. That's the other thing about the tweet. She said, "Don't call me good girl." Oh, thanks for that, good girl. And she says, I am a good girl, but I'm not your good girl. Based on what you said, the old man wasn't implying that you belong to him.
In any way, shape, or form.
He was calling you a good girl.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Martina, you're upset that we didn't use your example. The security guard at your school used to call you Mika, which means my little girl. Yeah.
My daughter, my girl. Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter specifically. But yeah, it doesn't actually mean you're my daughter. But
yeah, it's used colloquially as just my girl. You know.
Another good movie is 12th Man. That doesn't sound recent. I'll look it up.
Yeah.
He was also recommending Farscape in the chat. I haven't checked that one out, although as a fan of Stargate, I recognize that a couple of the actors came from Farscape in those later seasons.
Ooh, it's a World War II movie from 2007. Yeah, I'll have to look it up. Yeah, there are glimmers of goodness in this world still.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I kept on meaning to bring this up to that whole point that what David was saying before. You're not allowing any actual dialogue by shutting people down like this, because there might be some room to say, hey, you know what? Maybe you don't mean it this way, but there are a lot of people who use terms like sweetheart and good girl in a demeaning or possessive way. And so I'd really appreciate it if you did. That's an actual conversation where you can acknowledge it and allow the other person to recognize where you're coming from, instead of saying oh no, I'm not your good girl, and shutting them down and making them feel like a villain when probably they were just trying to be polite. And it's anyway, sorry. That was a piece of the connection that I wanted to make earlier that I forgot to, but yeah.
I really like this quote. He who takes offense where no offense is intended is a fool.
Mm-hmm. Offense is taken more than it is given. It is, yeah.
Yeah. That sounds like a good Chinese proverb.
It was Brigham Young, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
there
you go.
It goes on. It's he who takes offense when no offense is intended is a fool, and he who takes offense when offense is intended is a greater fool. But imagine someone trying to be nice to you and you looking for a reason to be upset. But that's the definition of empathy, which typically the people who act like this claim to have so much of. They're like, oh, we're the empathetic left, right? We care so much about not offending people.
99%,
right? Yeah. But they're completely devoid of empathy. They're completely incapable of understanding that people think differently than you. And to get offended at an old man who's trying to be nice to you is so moronic.
And then to Jacob Ironside's point right there, but it's okay to just completely say all men are terrible, all men are awful, men get out of here, we don't care about you, we don't want you, get out, and that's not bad somehow.
Yeah. Well, this has been a fun week. Next week we're going to be talking about even more fun stuff.
Very positive note to end on, right? I mean,
She-Hulk episode 5. House of the Dragon is good though. I was not expecting to like it at all, but I found it actually didn't require much editing either to make it clean. There's a couple scenes in episode 1 with nudity in the background.
Yeah.
But compared to Game of Thrones, there's not a lot of boobies in it.
Nice.
And so far, it's been pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, really well told story, demonstrating a woman struggling against sexist things going on, but in a way that doesn't demean the men around her, and yeah, it's really well done. I think
You're watching it?
Yeah, I've been watching it. I thought we were going to be talking on this more. I haven't actually watched Game of Thrones, but I'm watching this one because
I just don't want to force people to watch something that's inappropriate, right?
Right. That's fair.
And it feels weird for me to critique something that I'm watching edited.
Fair.
But we can talk about it. If you're watching it, by all means, let's talk about it.
I'm watching it, but I agree with you. It's the same reason. I recognize we didn't talk about The Boys when I was watching that or whatever, because it's like, it's not particularly family appropriate, so we're not going to be making people watch it.
But compared to Rings of Power, like the storytelling is street.
Oh yeah, it's really well done, and it still does have a lot of those very progressive ideals that it's showing, but in a way that's not demeaning to the men. I don't know. To some men, yeah, but
the silly part of it is that there is some race swapping with the Valyrians who are
that's the white-haired race of people, right?
It's like half of them.
Yeah.
I mean, did we not talk about Vox Machina on the show? Yeah, that was not family friendly, but it was pretty funny. So
I only saw the first 3 episodes. I need to finish
it. The Boys I don't think was bad. It's just a little bit too crude for my taste.
It is.
I don't mind like excess violence. Like Bullet Train was one of the most violent movies I've ever seen, but it was like I liked it, but The Boys is just a little bit too crude for my taste.
It is, yeah.
It kind of just feels dirty to me. So I never really.
I can't argue with you on that. Yeah,
but if it's your thing, man, I'm glad that I'm glad that there's something out there that's good.
I just do think that it is overall well told. It does still have like a little. It is still critical of some. I don't know. I think it's well done. I don't know. It's
so the funny thing with House of the Dragon though, but like compared to Rings of Power, I have no complaints, right? But it still has a little bit of woke stuff in it. It doesn't bother me as much because the storytelling is good. So you've got the Targaryens. Those are the people on the throne that ride the dragons, and they're kind of like they're not descendants from but they used to live in Valyria. Yeah. Which was it was a huge city that like blew up, essentially. It just disappeared. And the other family from there, the other is the Valyrians. That's the black guy who's on the council with like bleached white dreadlocks that look so silly. They look so dumb. And
I actually think in this latest episode, his brother is the one that looks ridiculous. I think I actually like his red
they look like all of the other wigs are believable, but then you've got they didn't turn the whole character, they turned the entire family of the Valyrians black, but they all still have the white hair because they're
because
they have very similar bloodlines to the Targaryens. And there was a lot of inbreeding, right? Because they bloodline and all that stuff. That's what they used to do. It's pretty historically accurate, okay? Yeah. But like the wigs of all these other characters, the Targaryens, obviously the people playing them don't have bleached white hair.
Yeah.
But the wigs
Matt Smith.
Good. Yeah. Oh, Matt Smith is incredible.
Yeah. I will say, I think that the one main guy, Coriolis or whatever his name is, I think his looks fine. His brothers look pretty ridiculous.
His brothers look so stupid. Like you can tell that it's a wig, and you can also tell that they don't have weight. Like they're made of like cotton, because when he moves, they just like blow. But the most ridiculous one is when you see Valerian's daughter, who's like a potential, and she's got the biggest white dreadlock afro, and you can literally see the line of the wig, and you can see like her hair poking out, and she's this tiny little like 6-year-old girl whose head
Yeah.
is bigger than her entire body, and it's so ridiculous.
The point when you
But-
see her, it's about the fact that she is way too young to be a potential suitor for the king who's trying to replace his wife and this, that, and the other. And I heard a lot of people talk about how cringy it was when you first see him and her walking together because they're trying to get him to marry her, and we're supposed to go, ooh. But the
point of that scene was supposed to be cringy because he's uncomfortable with it.
Right.
He doesn't want to marry a 6-year-old.
But the scene,
Whoopi
when you
Goldberg
first see
must
them,
be
you
a
see them-
Targaryen.
when you see them from the distance, I can't tell that that's not just a short person because you're only seeing from behind because that wig is just so big. It wasn't until they then cut to them talking and you see like, oh yes, this is a little girl that I actually got that like uncomfortable thing that they were going for. But I'm like,
and even though I think it's silly and the wigs look stupid, it wouldn't matter. Like I wouldn't care if it didn't affect the story. The problem is later on in the book, in the story, and I don't know how they're going to do it in the show. There's a question of who the father is for a child that is born, and with this
it's going to be
character,
pretty apparent
with this character being black, it's not going to be a question.
Is it going to be him that's the potential, or is it going to be his son that's the potential? Because that may make it a little bit easier to play around with. I don't know, because his son is
half black because he married the other Targaryen, but but still, when you could have race swapped any of the other houses, right? And probably not the Starks, right? But you could have if you wanted to include black people, you could have done any other house except for the one that's part of the story that they don't know who the real father is. Right?
So without having had any exposure to the books, I wasn't aware of that, and I think it's been working really well so far. To your point of how it's going to fit in.
The actor's great. The actor's fantastic.
They're doing great, and again, the story is
it's just silly that you create these problems for yourselves when you do like this. Like with Disa, they can't put a beard on her character because they cast a black lady and they want her to be strong and beautiful and.
Be strong and beautiful with a beautiful beard. I mean, we had the whole Greatest Showman, and you had the bearded lady, and she was a strong and powerful, and like literally her song from the movie is all about I am awesome. This is like just accept me as a and it's like why can't you have that as a part of your thing? And that I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. Well. There's some good stuff out there, but there's a lot of filth to wade through, and we're doing that for you, so you don't have to. We'll see you guys next week. I love doing this. It's a lot of fun to talk about nerdy crap. When my wife's asleep and she can't tell me to stop. It's funny though. We have I do talk about this a lot in real life about television and stuff, and I've probably started doing it a little bit more in real life now that I've started this YouTube channel, and my wife hates it because she says it's all I talk about anymore. She's like, anytime David comes over, you guys just talk about your show stuff. And I'm like, but I was already doing this before. It's probably gone up a bit. Because I'm more exposed to it now and I'm more in tune to things that are happening on it. Like I'm looking through news and stuff. So I probably talk about it more frequently, but I guarantee you, the funny part is every time she gets upset at me it's never me that brings it up in conversation outside of YouTube. People come to me and ask my opinion and I start getting a little worked up. I'm like, oh, it's really frustrating. And then I just see my wife from across the room. She's like, stop talking about TV. And I'm like, I didn't start it. Like I promise.
Well, it's kind of like how my wife thinks that I trash talk Star Wars a lot. Because when I have conversations with other people,
you defend Star Wars more than like most people I know.
Yeah, so it's like I wish that you could, because I had a conversation a little while back on Discord with a bunch of people. And we started going over all the same things again, and she's like, "Oh, why do you hate on Star Wars so much?" And I'm just like,
it's because
you
I
do
love
realize
Star
that I'm
Wars that I hate
literally
on so much.
in the midst of like I'll acknowledge some of the problems or things that I don't think were perfect, or can acknowledge that I can see your concern or things like that, and I can get behind some of that. But I'm by far the most positive person in this conversation. Again, on the time that I had this discussion on Discord a couple weeks ago, when we're talking, I am by far the most positive person about Star Wars. And yet somehow I'm I get the same sort of thing where it's like, oh, stop talking trash about it. Stop saying what you wish they would have done, and just I do accept for what it is, but I'm willing to talk about what could have been better.
Yep. And we talk about it so much because we love it, right? We want things to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm also willing to admit when I'm wrong, and I did not think that House of the Dragon was going to be good at all. Because it's just how badly Game of Thrones ended. It was so bad. I didn't think that people would come back because they were so spurned, and it is blowing Rings of Power out of the water in viewership.
Really?
Yeah. One of the other things,
Amazon is in trouble, guys. Like they don't realize. Like they spent so much money on this, and they're not getting the viewership that they want to. They're banning reviews on not just like on they convinced IMDb to ban user reviews. But they couldn't get Rotten Tomatoes to agree. So you can still go and rate the show on Rotten Tomatoes, but on their own website on Amazon, they're filtering reviews, and they claimed they got 25 viewers for episode 1, and couple days ago they had about like 25 million viewers, and they had like 600 reviews on the show, which is not a good
ratio
because especially because it's built into Amazon. Like you don't have to type anything, like you can literally just click the star after watching it. They've banned all negative reviews. Which
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, but like that's not a good look.
Yeah. Because
an interesting point of order with regards to House of the Dragon. First of all, again, CGI looking freaking amazing on all those dragons. Something I learned a little while back, though, there was a scene, I think it was in episode 2, maybe it was episode 3, where Matt Smith's character and Rhaenyra, or whatever her name is, the main girl, are face to face on a big bridge, and we have this confrontation between them a little bit. That was actually shot on a stage like the Volume.
Yes,
like Star Wars
yes, it was.
And
and you could see what was happening, right?
Yeah, in contrast with something like Obi-Wan, which it really was. It always felt like you were just constrained by the volume. These guys were able to shoot on a volume and not feel constrained, and not make it feel like you were claustrophobic, even though you're kind of in a big space, but you're still. Yeah, so
they claim they claim they had 25 million viewers, and they've only allowed 5,000 reviews. And people are posting on Twitter left and right. My review was rejected for inappropriate content, when all it said was, I didn't like it. It wasn't very faithful to Tolkien. Rejected. So people all over Twitter are posting their rejected reviews. And what's funny, you can compare it directly to The Wheel of Time season 1, which got probably a fraction of the viewership that Rings of Power is getting.
Look at all the,
and it has 30,000 reviews.
Yeah.
What else can I say here? But it's definitely not at 3.5 stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see you guys next week.
All right. Sounds good.
Because I'm tired.
All right.
Have a good one, y'all. Always good chatting.
Bye, everybody.